UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, is that the time? We better get started, hadn't we? Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for the next 3 absorbing hours of breaking news, trenchant views and dynamic debate. Get on the phone and get on the show. Call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I guarantee I'll play your message out. It's Tuesday, February the 11th. Here's what's coming up. Rod Liddle joins me in just a couple of minutes to discuss what you might call ground zero in crazy Ed Miliband's mad world of net zero lunacy. Britain's biggest power station, Drax, is a basket case of derangement. In order to be able to say this plant is fueled by, magic word, renewables, balmy Britain has come up with a startlingly eco-unfriendly system that should kill the planet stone dead in about a fortnight. Stay tuned for the shocking details. How's Ed's promise to slash your energy bills going? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. In other news, as Labour releases Trump-style pictures of migrants being loaded onto a plane as part of the government's alleged hardline deportation scheme, the truth. 47 rejects on a mostly empty and therefore vastly expensive jet that can carry 220 people. Cost to the taxpayer, 22,000 quid per passenger. Normal ticket price to Albania from London, £200. With medical assistance and a staggering 150 security guards on board, the price of this ridiculous flight was a cool £1 million. Nice photo, Keir. Shame about the story. And what's so great about kicking out 19,000 unwanted foreigners in 8 months when there are more than 600,000 illegals in London alone? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, the latest immigration court idiocy as some moron judge delays the expulsion of a woman back to her native Grenada because her Latvian husband doesn't like Caribbean food and, in any case, the weather there is too hot for him. What a shame. And yay! Another paedophile allowed to remain because to kick him back to Pakistan would be unduly harsh to his children, as opposed to the children he raped. Great that he can remain in the UK to pursue his hobby, isn't it? Be angry, people. Be very angry. 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, that Reform Tory pact. Will it happen before the Conservatives really realise Kemi Badenoch's astonishing complacency will be the death of them? 0344 499 1000. More on the llama lady, the new Health Minister Ashley Dalton, who believes the lie that trans women are women and respects morons who identify as llamas. And the Scottish doctor who says he's a biological woman when in fact he's male. Shouldn't a doctor know the scientific facts? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, Kinsey Schofield on Meghan's manic PDAs, kissing Harry on a 24/7 basis in Canada. Jake Wallace Simons on the fragile ceasefire in Gaza and Trump's threat to let all hell break loose unless Hamas stick to their hostage release agreement. And Barrister Sarah Fillimore on the order to judges to stop referring to accused male rapists by their preferred pronouns, as in, hopefully, an end to the bizarre practice of employing gobbledygook in trials like she attacked her victim with her penis. Please make this intelligence-insulting garbage stop, and make it stop now. They're blokes, for God's sake. Address them as such. 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday night together. And right off the bat, it's Tuesday, so for the first half hour, always enjoy this 30 minutes. I'm joined by a columnist at the... By the way, it'll take about 10 years to get all his jobs out now. Columnist at The Sun, The Sunday Times and The Spectator, and now a host-presenter on Times Radio from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. every Saturday. Welcome, Rod.
Good to hear you, mate.
OK, before we start, can I see Rod? He doesn't seem to be there. Is he there? I can hear him. Oh, there he is. Right, Rod, I've got something to show you. Well, we've got the top of this.
What a treat for you.
I've got a treat for you. Have a look at now, when I come to work every day, because of your exciting new gig hosting the show on Times Radio, they have all this gallery of all the presenters. On one of the pictures, big picture, says Rod Liddle, Times Radio, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. every Saturday. Now, under it is this picture. Can we have a look at it?
I can't see. What is it? What is it?
Now, can you tell me who this is? Because it looks to me like Brad Pitt or someone like that. I think.
Well, I look a bit like Brad Pitt.
Yeah, you do in this bloody picture, I'll tell you.
Well, it was taken in 2009.
OK. Well, my byline picture, well, I haven't been in the papers for some time, but my byline picture dates back way before that. I adhere to the Fleet Street practice of having a byline picture that's at least half a century old.
It's got to be half a century old, yeah.
It has to be, yeah. Always disappointing when you meet a columnist, isn't they? They're always miles more ugly than you thought.
That's right, yes.
Right, let's get on to the business of tonight, and I thought we'd do something different. Drax power station, not too far
Yes.
from your part of the world, is it? It's in North Yorkshire. It produces
100 miles south, but there we are.
Well, you know, it's the north. You know what I'm. The north's the north, but it's in there and thereabouts. It produces. It's Britain's biggest power station. It produces 5% of the nation's electricity, keeping the lights on in 5 million homes. Now, in 2023, until 2023, it was powered by coal from a coal mine 30 miles away. Right, since 2023, they've stopped that practice because they need to use the word renewables, and coal is not renewables. Now, wood pellets, it transpires, are renewables, so this allows Ed to say that Britain's biggest power station is fuelled by renewables. These renewables, these pellets, are transported in the most unecological way imaginable by a massive tanker, 3,000 miles all the way from America, and then piled into Drax power station. And wood pellets spew as much pollution into the air as coal. This entire practice is just so that Ed Miliband and his mates can use the word renewables. Get your thoughts first, and in a minute we'll have a look at Ed's deputy trying to defend this abject insanity in the Commons. But your thoughts on this, Rod?
Well, you can see Drax from Sutton Bank, which is about 80 miles south from where I am. Beautiful power station.
Yeah.
And the point is that all of this is about lip service. It's not about reality. Now, I think we should only be using biomass and wood chips and stuff like that if it's domestically produced. And even then, I've got grave reservations because it has an impact upon what we do with our farming and so on and so on. So what Miliband has done, he's concentrated on everything bad that's renewable. And he does so unfailingly. So there's been no move whatsoever towards the most, the cleanest and indeed the most efficient of all options, which would be small modular nuclear power stations up and down the coast. Rather than renewing the licenses for nuclear power stations which are 30 years, 40 years old. So he hasn't done any of that. He's put all his eggs in the basket of wind power, which is inefficient, unreliable, and hideous. and not put any in the more exciting and more viable side of photovoltaics or nuclear fission, for example. So he's got everything wrong at every single step of the way.
It's insanity. Listen, Rod, let's pause now, and he has a deputy. His name is Michael Shanks, some kind of Scottish MP. I saw him on Question Time last week, and even by Question Time's low standards, he was a dreadful guest, just an automaton spewing Labour nonsense, Labour dogma. But here he is being challenged by the eminently more sensible Lee Anderson from Reform UK. Watch this.
This net zero madness coming from this place is truly staggering. Right. Bear in mind, this power station used to burn coal from a coal mine from less than 20 miles away. Yeah. We're now transporting wood from 3,000 miles away. We're paying over £10 billion in subsidies for this power station, and it's producing 4 times more CO2 than a coal-fired power station. So could the Minister explain to me how this is contributing towards net zero?
Minister.
Well, I wasn't aware that it was the policy of the Reform Party to reopen the coal mines, but that's good to know. Good, great to know. Well, I'm very proud that as a country we have moved past coal-fired power station, which coal power generation, which is incredibly destructive for our environment. We closed the last coal power station last year at Ratcliffe-on-Soar, and the workforce there played a really proud role in recognising the role that they played in powering the country for many, many years, but also recognising that the drive to net zero is important. While we're building the clean power system that delivers energy security for the future, they're taking us back to the Stone Age.
What a bovine load of cobblers. What an absolute load of crap. It is people like him...
Can I share...
Go on.
Yeah. Can I share with you what the moron said on Question Time?
Yes, go on.
Which made me sit up. He was talking about the National Health Service, and he said he has hundreds of constituents coming up to him every day and telling him that they're going to go private for their operations. And he then added, not because they have any faith in the private sector. Now, that is one of the most stupid comments I have ever heard in my life. No, they're doing it for fun. They're just having a laugh, aren't they? I mean, a man of such incredible stupidity. And that answer, you know, it was chicanery. He didn't answer the central point, which is why there are more emissions from the fuel that you are using than from the fuel which we were using in the past. I don't want to see more coal, particularly. You know,
I wouldn't mind, Rod, to be honest with you. It would be more sensible for Drax to be using coal from 20 miles an hour. It would be
yes, it would.
It would be a lot more and a lot more environmentally friendly. This kind of demonisation of the very word coal leads to the kind of, as I say, bovine nonsense that this idiot Shanks was coming out with in the House of Commons. It just doesn't make any sense. But nothing about Ed Miliband's lunacy makes any sense whatsoever. I just find it, I mean, I know people say this all the time, but isn't it extraordinary that we have a Prime Minister that is letting this madman take this country to hell in a handcart on energy policies that don't pass any tests whatsoever when it comes to common sense?
It's not just that they're not commonsensical, it's that they don't do what the adenoidal idiot wants them to do. You know, they don't get us anywhere near a net zero. And putting all...
There is that,
know, I mean, it's just an absurdity. If it could be shown that what he was doing was massively reducing our carbon emissions and giving us a form of energy which we could rely on and which was affordable by the man in the street, then we would all stand up and cheer, Ed, we love you, we love you. But he does the opposite of that. He makes it A, more expensive for us, B, dirtier, and C, less efficient. It is remarkable. And, you know, it beggars belief that we haven't, for a government which is supposedly committed to net zero, that we haven't started investing in these smaller modular nuclear reactors. You know, we're waiting for one at Hartlepool, we're waiting for one all the way up the coast. And they would be an immediate 20-year option for virtually renewable, because nuclear is virtually renewable fuel and very clean fuel.
Absolutely. And Shanks, typical of Labour, he won't actually... He sort of says to Lee Anderson, Lee Anderson didn't, by the way, remotely say Reform UK will reopen coal-fuelled power stations or coal mines. He didn't say that at all. But Shanks said, I wasn't aware that Reform planned to reopen the coal mines. Well, you know... I'm like you, I suppose that would be a bad thing, but if you told the people of this country, by reopening the coal mines, we will slash your energy bills probably in quarter, never mind about a half, we will save you, thousands of pounds every year, let me tell Mr. Shanks that the people of this country would vote for that.
Yeah, I think they would, and it's what you're going to see in America. I mean, we're going to drill, baby drill.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they're going to take no notice of the Ed Miliband's of this world. But what it does, well, the other thing it does is it makes everybody question the point of trying to reduce our emissions, of trying to have cleaner energy. Everybody suddenly says, but this makes no earthly sense because it doesn't do anything that you want it to do. And so it brings into ill repute all of these measures, which we're trying to do to reduce the temperature of the planet and so on. And it makes us think, no, this is just politics at its worst.
It is, yeah. It's just that's literally what it is, and the sort of net zero, this messiah complex that Ed Miliband has. The people are not interested in it, and yet people like Shanks, people in the cabinet, Keir Starmer, they think that green claptrap is a real vote winner. It just isn't. I know it isn't. I know what a vote winner is. Save people money. Reduce their energy bills.
Yes.
Now, when Ed Miliband said, I will reduce your energy bills, people went, oh, hang on, I quite like this green stuff then. But what's happened, Rod? Oh, I know. Energy bills have rocketed because of Ed Miliband's green lunacy. Therefore, people don't like green stuff.
No, that's right. That's right. He's putting people off the green agenda, which he wants us all to follow. And he's doing it because he's been captured by a particular clique of the eco-nutters who won't have anything to do with nuclear power because they think it makes bombs. You know, it really is on that level of stupidity. He doesn't understand how close we are to a viable nuclear fission program, which avoids all the problems which you get with nuclear fusion power. And he doesn't seem to be interested in photovoltaics, solar panels, and so on, which at least are far more reliable than wind power and are far less unsightly. So I don't know. I don't get him at all, and I worry about the amount of Sudafed the bloke has to eat every year, to stop him sounding like Wallace's pet dog. Anyway,
really does.
Sorry.
He's just the worst of a terrible bunch. Rob, let's go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk about the migrant crisis and Labour's bold attempts to look tough when it comes to deportation. That next. Stay tuned.
this is going to go on for months and months and months. If anything, this is, as I said, it's awakened a sort of fire in the belly of farmers. And that's what you can see there today. And look, did you see, Mike, how many of those people are young people?
Yeah.
Because it's about them. At the end of the day, all of this is about them. And we had some amazing speakers, including one very young girl who's dreamed of doing this. This is her dream. And so we were there to fight for her.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're still talking to columnist Rod Liddle. Rod, bear with me. I'll just relay this story. Basically, today, the government and the Home Office, they spotted, I think, that Donald Trump looked quite good releasing those pictures of migrants being deported back to their home countries. So suddenly we were treated by Keir and his crew to a picture of us, of Britain, Labour, deporting migrants. There were 19 of them, in fact, going back to Albania. Meanwhile, he's boasting, Keir, since I've been in, 19,000 deportations. Well, as Nigel Farage pointed out, considering there are 600,000 illegals in London alone, 19,000 isn't that impressive. But this particular flight that Keir Starmer and his ace communications team chose to focus in on, turns out there were 19 passengers who were being shipped back to Albania, right? This was on a big Airbus type plane, and you can get 220 passengers onto that. Therefore, it was a largely empty plane. To cut a long story short, this plane cost £1 million. Each of the Albanian deportees cost £22,000 for a flight that would cost you or I 200 quid. Incredibly, there are a load of medical assistants on board as well, and 150 security guards. So this picture showing how tough Keir Starmer is on illegal aliens actually tells the story of what an absolute shambles our migrant system is.
Yes, and not to forget that within the party there are still people like Clive Lewis, who says that showing those pictures on the television plays into a racist agenda. So no matter what he does, Starmer is damned. I mean, the real problem, I don't think they have any great yen to send lots of people back, to deport lots of criminals. The real problem, though, lies beneath them and in the courts, which, as we've seen this last week, Kev, you know, some remarkable stories from the Albanian bloke who was allowed to leave to remain here because his son didn't like foreign chicken nuggets.
I had a lot of sympathy for that.
Chicken nuggets.
I had a lot of sympathy. Have you tried Albanian chicken nuggets? I bet they're not very nice. So it's a fair enough reason to be allowed to stay. There's a couple.
It's remarkable, isn't it? Well, I mean, the other one that was really bad was the Pakistani paedophile who'd already done 18 months in prison. For only just pubescent girls, and he was given leave to remain here because the moron of a judge who's unidentified said that his family back in Pakistan might take a dim view of what he'd been doing and therefore make life... So it's basically, oh, you've got to stop your kiddie fiddling, Asif, or it's no soup for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's just...
Have you heard
it's an absurdity.
Have you heard today's new ones, Rod? So the chicken nuggets.
I've heard a couple, but go on.
Well, today's one, by the way, this is now, I've been covering these stories. I think I've covered about 5 paedophiles who have been allowed to stay because of their own children, because of their right to a human life, to a family life, ECHR and all that. There's another one of those today, another Pakistani paedophile who's been allowed to stay because to kick him back to Pakistan would be unduly harsh to his children. Pretty harsh to let him stay, really, in terms of the local children who he might go out and rape.
Yeah,
so you know, that's...
Yes, pretty harsh for the rest.
Anyway,
yes.
this is
it's big... But it's important. This is important because we don't even know the name of the judge in the cases which I've just mentioned. You know, we're not allowed to know their names. All of this stuff is being done by absolute bona fide cretins who sign up to every little bit of vacuous liberalism and don't give a monkeys about what the effect is upon our country, and that's what a Home Office should be getting to grips with. And it's pretty much a disgrace that the Tories didn't during their 14 years in office.
Yeah, let's dwell on that, because I think that these tribunals, these immigration tribunals, I don't know who they pick to be judges on them, but these people, you know, I mean, they're inadequate. There's something wrong with them. They're morons. They're absolute cretins, as you say. The other great example today, you'll like this one, Ron. This is another immigration court decision. A woman, a Caribbean woman who outstayed her visa, was being kicked back to Grenada. That's where she's from. But this has been delayed because she's come up with a very reasonable reason for her to be allowed to stay. Her Latvian husband doesn't like Caribbean food, and in any case, the weather in the Caribbean is too hot for him. This has resulted genuinely in the delay of this woman's deportation. I want to know who made that decision. Were they even in long trousers?
Well, so do I.
Well,
yes.
Are they still at primary school or something? This is ridiculous.
Because as bad as ECHR is, I don't believe that was ever intended. You know, that kind of decision was ever intended. These are people who are taking such a latitudinous view of you know, what might cause hardship, what might cause problems for people, that it's become a daily absurdity. And you're right, absolutely right. We need to find out who these judges are, and maybe send round some of these asylum seekers to their house to see if they could do with some company.
Or maybe a couple of the paedophiles that they've allowed to stay to come round and play with their children or something like that. See how they like it. Rob,
see how they like it. Yes.
What are you going to lead your column on in the Sun then this week? Do you think? How about this?
Yet.
How about this?
I've just what. Well, this isn't bad at all. I may well do this. I've just written for The Spectator about the Andrew Gwynn case, and I'm afraid I'm on Andrew Gwynn's side. If you can't take the mickey out of your constituents in a private meeting room, then you know you've got to be able to. You've got to have a bit of a laugh in life, haven't you, Kev? You know?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. He's a sorely mistreated man. It's the subject of very unjust treatment. But do you know, if you've ever seen the video of him, if you haven't seen it, have a look at him jousting with Boris Johnson. That's the point where he's going to Boris Johnson.
Yes.
You're going to axe the winter fuel allowance, aren't you? You're going to axe the winter fuel allowance. And Boris Johnson saying we're going to do no such thing. Guess who voted for the axing of the winter fuel allowance? It was Andrew Gwynn. Yeah. They really churn out geniuses at the University of Salford, I'll tell you that.
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
the Richard Bergen University of Salford.
The dreaming spires of Salford. Rod, great to talk to you again. See you next week. Take care, mate. Rod Liddle, columnist at The Sun, Sunday Times and The Spectator. Read him in The Sun every Thursday, I do believe. Sunday Times, of course, on Sunday, and The Spectator, that comes out on Thursdays as well. Great columns, great columns. Next up, talking of great people, This is a really powerhouse hour every Tuesday. It's Tim Montgomery, former, what you might call conservative spiritual guru, who has switched to Reform UK, so there's a lot to talk about on that front. Looking forward to that. Tim Montgomery next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, he's in the building, he's in the office, he's in the studio. It is the great Tim Montgomery, formerly of the Tory party for more than 30 years. As I've described him before, somewhat of a sort of spiritual guru for the Tories, a real mover and shaker who worked for Boris in Number 10. And
don't dwell on that. I'm not so proud of that.
Yeah, but he doesn't like to talk about
Which is why you always raise it.
But recently switched to Reform UK somewhat sensationally, but I completely understand why he did it, and I think a lot of you do too. Well, let's talk about what's making quite a few column inches at the moment, and this is, of course, this proposed or potential pact between Reform UK and the Tories. I never quite understand why politicians, as soon as you mention something like this, they come racing out of the traps to say, out of the question, no way, no way, no way, Jose! Yeah. And, so Kemi Badenoch said, it's for the birds, it's for the birds. Well, this is the way it goes. Meanwhile, what we know is that there's this real Barney going on behind closed doors in Conservative Tower,
huge, yeah.
Which is about the MPs seriously worrying about the threat from Reform UK, and well, they should be. Kemi Badenoch, though, seems to exemplify a kind of weird complacency, an utter trust in the two-party system, and she just brushes aside any suggestion of a deal with Nigel Farage and Reform UK, rather sort of in a superior way. No.
Old Tory way.
Yeah, exactly right. And my question to you, I guess, is, well, if there is, A, do you think there will be a pact in the future? And I've got to say that my suspicions are, as we near the next election, the playing field may change, the goalposts may change. But do you think that the Tories will realise before too long that Kemi Badenoch is not their girl. I think she's a disaster. She has no sense of urgency. She said there won't be any policies for 2 years. Suddenly she panicked last week and came up with a bit of a hodgepodge of around-the-edges migrant policies. She won't leave the ECHR. And she has this tendency, I find her to be a bit of a Westminster snob. She'll look at someone like Nigel Farage and her favourite dismissal is not serious, not serious. Yeah. Well, look, politicians who go around thinking that other politicians are not serious are the ones who get beaten by those other politicians, because those other politicians are more interested in connecting with the people. And Nigel Farage talks the language of the people of this country. I'm afraid she doesn't, and she doesn't get it. She's in deep trouble, and so are the Tories. They need to get rid of her, I think.
Well, I may not comment on that just for the moment, but if you're going to accuse your opponent of not being serious, Kevin, it's probably quite a good idea not to have just seriously failed on every issue that mattered to the British people in government. You know, I am old enough to remember the 18 years of the Thatcher Major years. You know, they were transformational. You know, the government achieved largely what it set out to do, with some exceptions, but it was a reforming government. You compare the record of that government to the last 14 years of Tory rule. They said taxes would be kept down. They went up. They said they would control immigration again and again. They didn't. Home ownership. You could go through the list. We're familiar with all of the failures. If I was the new leader of a Conservative Party that had lost 251 MPs at the last election, is seeing its donors go from the Conservatives to Reform, seeing Reform pass the Conservatives in the opinion polls, get more members, when is the Conservative Party going to think maybe the split on the right is real? I think they're living in cloud cuckoo land. They think that everything's going to come back to the natural order. But Labour have lost 20% in the opinion polls. Not 1% increase in the Tory support during that period. It's all gone elsewhere. I think voters aren't going to quickly forgive the Conservatives for what they did. And it's all in Tory hate. Well, you know, fingers in the air. And if you want to talk about serious, it's fundamentally unserious for the Conservative Party to just think Nigel Farage is going to implode. And this is, I've gone to lots of reform meetings over the last few weeks. These people are serious. They're committed. And their conversations start with how the country needs to be changed. Whereas in Tory gatherings, it's about political fixes. It's profoundly different. Sorry, I'm a bit on my high horse.
No, not at all. Yeah. It's astonishing to me. I mean, you know, I'm sounding like I'm being really dismissive of Kemi Badenoch. I mean, in many ways, she's a very impressive woman, and I really admire the way she's risen to where she is. You know, first female woman of colour to lead a major political party. Well done, well done. But ever since she got the gig, she's been a massive disappointment. And what's astonishing to me, I mean, obviously she's intelligent, so are many of her shadow cabinet colleagues, but many of them don't seem to understand. They don't seem to realise that the political tectonic plates of this country are changing.
They've changed, yeah.
What is that? Why don't they see this?
Well, I don't really disagree with your criticism of Kemi Badenoch, by the way, but what I'm trying to sort of underline is even if she was a brilliant leader, to cure the Conservative Party's problem would be difficult. The Conservative Party is in deep, deep trouble. And I don't think she can turn it around, but I'm not sure who could. The only way of really being sure of stopping a Labour government is potentially to be open to a pact. And I hope Reform won't need a pact. We'll wait and see. We don't have to take a decision now. But, yes, there is a sleepiness to her leadership. I think the Conservative Party, they've had dominated British politics since the post-war period. They think it's going to be like that again soon. But look across the world as well. Political parties are disappearing. It's not just in Britain that people are angry. All across the West, people say, you don't govern for me. You govern for other people. You don't seem to care about my life going south. Trump does. Trump is speaking to Middle America in a way that Conservatives are routinely sniffy about Trump to me. They don't get it, Kev.
No.
They don't get it.
Well, Trump is like Farage. Whatever you think of both men, I'm an admirer of them both, actually. But even if you're not an admirer, these are guys who know how to talk to the people. It's kind of strange because both of them have fairly privileged backgrounds, but they've just got that talent. They recognise the issues that will mean things to people, and they know how to talk to them. And Kemi Badenoch doesn't seem to be one of those people. She doesn't seem to understand what the issues are at all. And while she conceded to some extent that the Tories had been, catastrophic in their administration of the migrant crisis, basically deceiving the people for 14 years, they need forgiveness. The only way to get forgiveness in that arena is to be dramatic, is to say, right, I'll put an immigration cap. It'll be this many people. Maybe you could be as compelling as Reform UK and say we'll do net zero migration. She should be coming up with a number, and she should definitely be saying we'll leave the ECHR and we will make our own decisions, and yet she won't. What is wrong with her?
Well, you know what the problem is? And this is also an opportunity. If she did what you have just advocated, you know what would happen? A good number of her own MPs would say no.
Yep.
The trouble is that lots of people over the years have seen the Conservative Party normally wins elections. People who want to be in office, who want to be in government, they join the Conservative Party without really believing conservatism. And if she takes a position on the ECHR or whatever, they will walk. I say good. Remember when Boris Johnson expelled the anti-Brexit people?
Yeah.
People noticed, so he's more serious about delivering Brexit than party unity. I like that. Kemi Badenoch needs a row. She needs an argument. But to lead the Conservative Party, unfortunately, probably means to divide it. And she doesn't want to do that. But I think it's inevitable at some point.
I mean, and also I just feel, again, I don't want to be too dismissive of Kemi, but I think she's not the right leader for the Tory party. They need someone far more dynamic, far more... Here's one of her... this is what I think is a fundamental problem that she has. She doesn't understand the media, and nor do people around her. Understanding what's going to make the papers, what's going to interest people like me, what's going to interest television producers, presenters, and radio presenters and producers, and newspaper editors. That is fundamental to modern politics. Politics is showbiz now. She has no appreciation of that whatsoever, and that is going to be fatal.
Have you always thought that, or have you felt it more since you became leader?
More since she... But I always sensed that perhaps she wasn't one of those people who would connect with the masses easily. But it is a misunderstanding, or no, it's not a misunderstanding. It is a total lack of understanding of the media that's going to be a downfall. A couple of weeks ago, I can't remember, there were all sorts of massive stories going on, migrant crisis and God knows what, Donald Trump and Nigel Farage and Labour all capitalising on these big headlines. I think it was the grooming gang scandal and Keir Starmer and Southport, all of this sort of stuff. And she came out with one statement all week: I'm very worried about the future of academy schools. Now, that's a perfectly valid concern, but it wasn't the story of the week. It wasn't even a story of the week. And if she's going to keep making those kind of misfires, she's in big trouble.
I don't think it's just a misfire. The gossip, and more than gossip, in the Conservative Party is that one of her problems is she's a bit lazy.
Yeah.
And I heard this in a constituency. I went to a couple of parties there a couple of years ago, and the local papers are full of people complaining that she's not a very active MP. And one thing you can say about Nigel Farage, a man who's not young, had that terrible plane accident, he is there every day in front of a microphone. He cares about the issues he speaks about, and people could tell that. They know he's a patriot. They know he's in this for the long run. And I think Kemi has, it is amazing what, as you say, she's a black woman risen to the top of politics. But I don't think she's really faced much difficulty. The Conservative Party have welcomed that, to be honest. She's not had a particularly controversial brief. I wonder whether she's battle-tested, like we know Farage is, because if we are going to change this country, you're going to have to fight.
Yeah.
Because the bureaucracy and the lawyers will try and stop it.
Yeah.
Does she have that fight? She's not showing it now. In this
She better raise her game, Tim, pretty damn quickly. Otherwise, I think even these complacent Tories are going to draw the line. I think she's in trouble.
Yeah, but changing a leader again, you know, that's not good for the Tories either.
They may have to. We better go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk about some trans madness. That next. Stay tuned, folks.
Tories like you and Kemi Bader, although she was sound on this, to be fair, as a cabinet minister, you're saying how awful this is, how mad this is. It happened on your watch and you guys did absolutely bugger all to stop it.
Well, I'm not sure that's right, actually, but Tories like me, if you can find...
What was wrong about what I said?
Because, I was going on to say, if you can find any reference to me ever supporting the principle that somebody with a penis can go into women's prison or women's toilets...
Call them what they are. You
Sorry?
allowed it to happen while you were in office.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Reform UK's luminary, Tim Montgomery. Tim, let's talk about Labour, a story that cropped up yesterday, but I'd be interested in your take. The new health minister replacing the odious Andrew Gwynn, whose career is over because of all those WhatsApp messages that he
rightly
posted.
so.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I do think people should be able to have that kind of WhatsApp group if they want, but if you're a politician, be very, very careful about what you commit to print. Yeah. So he is the architect of his own downfall, fully deserves it, and will never be back. And nor will 29-year-old Oliver Ryan, the MP for Burnley, who stupidly got involved as well. So
you sure they'll never be back?
Well, if they are, Labour are madder than I thought, and that's what I want.
Possible.
That's what I want to talk about. So Gwynn gets his marching orders, quite rightly. In comes the Prime Minister's new appointment of Health Minister, very important position, Deputy to West Streeting. Now, West Streeting, you may have noticed in The Sun on Saturday, wrote quite a good piece about the war on NHS wokery. He said it's time to stop this, quote, daft nonsense, and we know what we're talking about.
People like me and you being asked, are we pregnant?
Well, I said last night, I said, come on then, Wes. You know, put your money where your mouth is, start the ball rolling, announce that from now on, no man will be asked if they're pregnant at the NHS, as opposed to all men being asked if they're about to have an X-ray. Ridiculous. Start there, but he won't, because it's just words. Now, proving that his war on wokery should be taken with an absolute pinch of salt, the Prime Minister's appointment to replace Andrew Gwynn is Ashley Dalton, a woman who believes that trans women are women. This is not true. This is absolutely not true. And believes that we should... if someone identifies as a llama, they are llamas, and therefore they should be...
I am a llama, by the way, today. I'm going to be a llama today.
Exactly.
So I hope you're not going to infringe my llama rights by denying my llama status.
No, those are two things she believes in. What she does... Of course,
it's mad, isn't it?
No, but what she doesn't believe in is gendered lavatories, gendered loos. Now, you know... I said to some colleagues, what on earth is Keir Starmer doing appointing a lunatic like this? And somebody pointed out, it said the entire Labour Party is full of lunatics who believe this claptrap. This is really worrying, isn't it? A woman who believes the lie that trans women are women is now the Deputy Health Minister.
No. Are you really surprised, though? You know, obviously we're disappointed, but are you surprised? You know, Labour make a big deal about diversity. They say, you know, we've got to have organisations that represent the country, but they're only really interested in, you know, a number of women, a number of ethnic minorities, which is not an unimportant thing. But where are the people who run business? Where are the people with common sense? Where are the people who have had to, you know, employ people and make a business succeed? Labour. They all come from the same sort of ideological zone, and they all think the same. And I'm afraid we will see that throughout this period of government. They are from a politically correct, woke tribe that, thankfully, Donald Trump has closed down in America. And the most interesting reaction, I think, is most people in America, 80% even of Democrats, approve of his, for example, you know, saying there's only a man and there's a woman. The extraordinary thing about this whole trans thing is it's actually a belief very few people hold, but they've had enormous power for a long time. And unfortunately, they are still in, the Labour Party is still in their grip. And
this is probably why Lee Anderson left the Labour Party. And here is Lee on the very important issue of people who identify as llamas. Take it away, Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, the new Health Minister has stated that it's OK for a human being to present as a llama. So what I want to know is if I have a family member who presents as a llama, suddenly becomes ill in the middle of the night, do they send for a doctor, a vet or a straitjacket?
Mr. Speaker, I can just say to the honourable member that my honourable friend, the Minister for Public Health, believes in treating every human being with the dignity and respect they deserve, even the honourable gentleman.
Oh, what a brilliant comment.
That's a bit
feeble there, Wes.
Lee is very funny, by the way. I've heard him give quite a long speech, and it was full of jokes.
He seems like a reasonable guy, but let me, you know, of a bad bunch. But he will fail as the health secretary. He's already showing signs that he's going to be every bit as disastrous as all of his predecessors. Still talking a good guy. I will fix the broken NHS. Mate, you've been there 8 months. You've done the square root of sod all so far.
Well, we know one of the reasons why, don't we? Because in the gossip amongst Labour MPs is he's not really focused on the NHS.
He's focused on taking over?
Taking over from poor old Keir.
Yeah. Well, how long... so Starmer must be in some kind of trouble now, isn't he, don't you think?
Well, I think, you know, I'm not that plugged into the Labour Party, but still I'm getting taught from Labour MPs how unhappy they are with him. And when the mood turns, it will turn decisively, because whenever anyone's had personal troubles or, slightly erred, his deselected candidates, you get Diane Abbott off the selection list for over a year, holding her in sort of suspense. He's mean to people. He doesn't give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right?
And Labour people have noticed that. And so, if he is in trouble, and the Labour Party don't generally get rid of leaders in the way the Tory Party gets rid of leaders, it's harder internally. But he will go quickly. There's no love for him in the Labour Party, just as there's no love for him
anywhere. Anywhere. I saw that he was on the front page of, was it the Times yesterday? Yeah, he still plays football. I'll give him that. That's pretty impressive. He's about 63, 64. But
he's
anyway,
very competitive. He loves winning.
Well, so there's a picture of him going like this. What he'd done, he just put a penalty over the bar. But what, of course, he specialises in, and this is why I get the big bucks, folks, he specialises in own goals. And by the way...
very good, Kev, very good.
Not that good, actually, is it? But seriously, Labour's just suspended the WhatsApp group with Andrew Gwynn and Oliver Ryan. They've obviously both got their marching orders, both suspended, kicked out of the party, actually the Parliamentary party. But Labour has now suspended 11 councillors in Greater Manchester who were part of this WhatsApp group. So, again, he's taking an axe to all of these people. I mean, in some ways, I think that didn't behove him that badly. He acted quickly and swiftly and decisively. But it does sort of prove... I thought that the trouble with this, the trouble with this awful WhatsApp group, was with Andrew Gwynn in particular. It revealed a truth that I think exists within so many Labour MPs. They're superior elitists who look down on the working class people who traditionally support them.
It reminded me, of course, Gillian Duffy. Remember, Gordon Brown was overheard talking about that bigoted woman.
Yeah, she wasn't a bigoted woman.
And of course she wasn't, but lots of people think that's what politicians think of them.
And who can forget Emily Thornberry taking a picture of those St George's Cross flags in Thanet, the view from Thanet. Those, Emily, are your voters. Don't look down on them. Politicians, eh? Tim, thank you so much for coming in. It's always a pleasure. I'm really
It's
pleased.
lovely to see you.
We'll see you again next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday, as they always say.
Naughty.
Tim Montgomery will be back. Good to talk to him. When we come back, guess what? We've got a visitor from abroad, from America. Kinsey Schofield always joins me, as you know, on Mondays and Tuesdays. She wasn't here last night because she was on a plane. She's here now. She'll be in the studio in a minute. Stay tuned for that.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Exciting times, folks. As I said, it's the great Kinsey Schofield in the studio. She's usually a world away over in the West Coast in LA, but here she is in person. I can hardly believe it. It's like starstruck, really. In a little while, towards the end of this hour, I'll be taking your calls in about half an hour or so. You know the number, 03444991000. Drax power station, the lunacy of that. Ed Miliband, Crazy Ed, reneging on his promise to make your energy bills lower. They're going up, aren't they? Up and up and up. What do you make of all that? 03444991000, plus the madness of our immigration system. The latest horror. A Caribbean woman deported back to her home country of Grenada. How do you say it? Grenada? Let's call the whole thing off. She's deported back there, and but that's been delayed because she's pointed out, it's a good point, that her Latvian husband doesn't like Caribbean food, and worse still, he's going to find the weather too hot there. So her deportation has been delayed for that reason. A Pakistani paedophile has been allowed to remain forever, for good, because of his own children. To deport him back to Pakistan, he's been to prison for raping British children, but to deport him back to Pakistan would be unfair to his own children. If you live near him, what about your children? So let me know what you think about that. So, and you know, we've done about 4 or 5 stories like this now. Paedophiles who go to jail and who happen to have a wife and a kid or something, or a couple of kids, they're allowed to stay because of their right to a family life, and that's the European Court of Human Rights for you. This is insanity, folks, and it is endangering people in this country. Dangerous people are being allowed to stay on the back of their human rights, and that they affect our rights, our right to be safe as a nation. Your thoughts, please, 03444991000. And what do you think about having a lunatic as a health minister who thinks that people who identify as llamas are llamas, who believes the absolute scientific lie, the untruth, the scientific claptrap that trans women are women? No, they're not. They're males. They're men, basically, in a skirt. So they're not women. But this health minister thinks they are, believes they are. Doesn't believe in gendered loos, though. No gents and ladies in her world. What do you think about that? Ashley Dalton, she shouldn't be anywhere near a ministerial job. 03444991000. Right, Kinsey, let's get to business. Let's talk about the royals now. Meghan, we'll talk about her up in Canada at the moment. I'm not sure if she's still there, but she's been up there with Harry. Basically kissing him constantly. Stop kissing Harry, will you? It's unseemly. But let's talk about her business future first, because I think this is a fascinating story. You and I have spoken so often over the past, well, what is it now? A year, literally a year since the Duchess of Sussex, the difficult Duchess, launched her lifestyle site, American Riviera Orchard. Still not open for business. Has been mired in a lot of legal difficulties, even over the name. She hasn't sold a damn thing. The site's not active. But Netflix, we hear, have kind of taken over the reins. And they've got these 2 stores, these big shops, in 2 of America's biggest shopping malls. One is the extraordinary, I love the name of this, it's the king-sized The King of Prussia Mall in Philadelphia, and the massive Dallas Galleria. So these are the 2 huge stores, and then Netflix has got shops in there.
Yeah.
Now what Netflix are going to do now, to coincide with the release of Meg's uneagerly awaited lifestyle series with Love Meghan, that comes out on March the 4th, The lucky shoppers at the King of Prussia Mall in Philadelphia and the Dallas Galleria will be able to buy Meg's jam, honey, olive oil and a couple of other products as well, wallpaper as well apparently. Now, Netflix apparently believe that this kind of tying up of the two sort of initiatives, the TV show and you can buy olive oil at the King of Prussia Mall in Philadelphia. Why is it called the King of Prussia Mall? Did he used to live in Philadelphia or something?
I don't think so.
But I love the name. I love the name. Now, you know, I know America quite well. You know it better than I do. Now, I just don't think that Philadelphia and Texas are the kind of places where shoppers are going to go, hey, I can buy a $50 jar of jam made by Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. This is desperate stuff, isn't it?
Well, first of all, yeah, I'm from Texas, and I can tell you the South does not like Meghan Markle because they love the royal family, and they feel like Meghan has been so destructive towards the royal family, tearing Prince Harry away from, you know, the Queen and King Charles and his brother. So if there are sales made, I imagine it's people that are astute enough to know that somebody might buy it online, so they pick it up in the mall and throw it online somewhere.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think. And also, I'd say to you, when's the last time you were in a mall on purpose? I don't go to malls anymore. Everything's online, or I'll go into a specific shop. But what a bizarre way.
I can answer that question.
Oh.
Just before Christmas, I took my laptop to Apple at the Brent Cross Centre in North London to try and get them to fix it for free, and it didn't work. That's the last time I go to a shopping mall, I'll tell you. They refused.
Well, so this is called like Netflix House, and they're supposed to do multiple experiences. For instance, a Bridgerton tea is something that they might do, but it just gives you the idea of how desperate they are for a return on investment here when it comes to Meghan Markle, that they would try to generate this kind of interest in her and try to have these tangible products. We're not going to race out to get Meghan Markle olive oil or wallpaper. It seems like a very bizarre pursuit.
And this will be, by the way, folks, this will be very expensive jam, very expensive honey, astronomically priced wallpaper. You know, this is brand designer label stuff. So it won't be, you know, a jar of jam. It's Jello, isn't it, in America? Jello?
Oh, we call it jelly. Jelly and jam.
Jelly, not Jello. Jelly. Yeah, okay. Anyway, it won't be, you know, $2.50. It'll probably be $25 or something like that. Now, I don't think that the good people of Texas and Philadelphia are going to shell out that kind of money, do you?
Texas and Philadelphia have experts of their own that they trust.
Yeah.
And Meghan Markle hasn't proven herself in this field. Also, the idea that this, we talked about this briefly, the idea that this is not a cooking show. It's a friendship show. It's a hosting show. Look at how special I treat my friends. Well, how does wallpaper have anything to do with how great you are as a friend? Which, by the way, we have plenty of stories of Meghan burning bridges. But how does there's nothing copacetic about this brand. There's nothing copacetic about these two ever. How does Meghan's lifestyle show have anything to do with her tongue down Prince Harry's throat right now at the Invictus Games? You know, there's
we'll be talking about that in a minute, folks.
But there's just nothing that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I get this fine because we discussed, was it last week, that Netflix had a launch only recently of a number of programs in Los Angeles, and they didn't actually mention With Love Meghan, which probably is quite worrying for the Duchess. But the head of content there, Bella Bajaria at Netflix, she sort of waxed lyrical excitedly. Oh, I'm really looking forward to this show. And then you get this, that they're going to flog her products at their shops and try and coincide it with the release of With Love Meghan on March the 4th. So what I'm sensing here is this is a massive corporation, the biggest streaming giant in the world. We've done a $100 million contract with the gruesome twosome, Harry and Meghan. And they're desperate to give the image, at least, that it is not what the Puck podcast called it, the Puck podcast, very influential podcast by a couple of people who used to work at the Hollywood Reporter. One of them is the editor, the others like the business editor, very serious people. They called Netflix's deal with the Gruesome Twosome one of the worst in Hollywood history. So I have a feeling, my sense is that Netflix know this is a lost cause.
They're trying to save face.
But they're desperate to at least make it look as if they're still committed to this arrangement.
Yes, because Harry and Meghan blame everybody but themselves. So if this fails, Netflix doesn't want them to be able to say, like they did with Polo. Remember when Harry and Meghan's friends were saying, well, it was taken away from them, it was out of their hands. That's why Polo was such a colossal failure, is because Harry and Meghan, their vision wasn't met. It was Netflix that took it over. They want to be able to say, we did everything in our power to make this work. And unfortunately, it just, what was it? It didn't connect. Unfortunately, it didn't connect to the audience. And I, think from a industry perspective, do you remember how scathing the articles were about Spotify after the Harry and Meghan deal failed, and how all of these, the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, all of those industry publications were saying, here's an example of what not to do. Do you see how much money Spotify wasted? What a bad, what a bad deal. They don't want to have egg on their faces the way Spotify did.
Yeah, but let's cut to the chase. So I suspect a fair few people will watch episode 1 of With Love, Meghan.
Yeah, it's like a car crash, okay?
Because it's intriguing, but I suspect they'll get very bored with it very quickly, unless you're the kind of person who just can't wait to find out how to freeze edible flowers into ice cubes. This is important stuff, folks. It's a lifestyle series, no recipes, just sort of rich people in designer clothes frolicking in the Montecito sun. I don't think it'll work. I don't think selling jam in shopping malls is going to work. And at that point, this is make or break for her. This is the day of reckoning. March the 4th is Meghan's day of reckoning. And if it doesn't work, then she really is out in the cold. So we'll leave that hanging there. That's my view, and I know Kinsey agrees. We need... we can get onto this and then we'll go over the break with it. But we need to talk about Meghan and Harry up at the Invictus Games in Whistler in Canada.
Hide your eyes, everybody.
Yeah. And now we, again, for some time now, they've had this strategy, the Sussexes, of don't be seen together, because
professional separation.
Yeah, professional separation. Their image makers said, do you know what, people hate you together, so don't be seen together. So they haven't been now, but that didn't work, so people still hate them. So they've got a new strategy. In fact, it's the new old strategy. They've gone back to basics, and they have now decided, been told actually, to be seen together again. So that's what they're trying up there in Whistler. But Meghan, that phrase, less is more, she's never heard of it, has she?
No.
So not only are they together, as you said earlier, she seems to be spending her entire time with her tongue down her husband's throat.
He's not Santa Claus. Get out of his lap, Meghan.
Yeah, we call them PDAs, public displays of affection. And at one point, just to sort of illustrate how cold and calculated this all is, they're sitting in the crowd, and Harry was heard to mutter, "Give us a kiss then."
Oh.
And she leans in, and does the big kiss. And of course, crash bang wallop, what a picture, lovely photograph, all that. But it is just calculated. It's choreographed. They've gone up there, and she's decided it's going to be good for us if I'm seeing...
It's going to be good for me.
Yeah, it's going to be good for me if I'm seen looking affectionate towards my husband. So she can't take her hands off him. It's getting embarrassing.
It is. But, I think we need to reiterate, it's going to be good for her, because the only one that excelled throughout the professional separation was Prince Harry. Even you and I, who are fairly but heavily critical, would sit back and go, look at Prince Harry shining on the charity circuit without his wife. We really saw a different side of him. It was old Harry that we'd occasionally see jump back on a stage or engaging with children. The only person the professional separation hurt was Meghan Markle. There's multiple things going on here. that scathing Vanity Fair article that accused someone from Meghan's team of shopping a post-Harry divorce book. I think that Meghan and Harry...
I'd read that.
Yeah, I know. I think Harry and Meghan...
At last, the product
finally, the content we've been waiting for.
The public can gather around, yeah.
So that I think that they're trying to discredit that Vanity Fair piece. Meghan
Good luck with that.
Yep. Meghan is also trying to promote through wounded veterans and her husband, who's got, the shine on him right now, her With Love Meghan project that's coming out next month. And again, I think a lot of it is just trying to dispel the divorce and separation gossip that had generated prior to the Vanity Fair article. We had been talking about how the last time we saw them together was Tyler Perry's birthday party in August. We didn't see them together for almost 6 months, I think.
Exactly. And she imagines that, locking lips with her husband in Canada, frequently for the cameras, is somehow going to blot out these constant allegations of bullying that, frankly, have ruined her brand. Her brand is tarnished, to say the least. And this is half the problem. This is why I think she's doing this sort of eyelid fluttering kissing antics up in Canada, because she's trying to get press, good publicity, because everyone in Tinseltown, everyone in the damn world, we read 8,000 words in Vanity Fair saying she was the most god-awful bully to her staff. That followed a report a few months back by the Hollywood Reporter saying, guess what? She was the most god-awful bully to her staff, which followed what happened when she was still here in Britain, working in the palaces, Frontline Royal, when all the staff said she was the most god-awful bully to them. What has emerged, I think, is a picture that now everyone is taking to the bank. This woman is a god-awful bully to her staff, and she thinks kissing Harry for the cameras will somehow blot out the memory of that. It's not going to work, is it?
It's not going to work, but, back to With Love Meghan, people that have seen With Love Meghan say that that is basically what this entire series is. She doesn't say anything that could even remotely be considered edgy. It's just hugs and giggles and smiles and frolicking through someone else's garden. This is all a desperate PR spin, because the truth is out. She's not a very easy, person to collaborate with. She's not a very nice person, allegedly, when it comes to being a boss. And I think that this is just all a desperate attempt to change public perception, because no one wants to work with her.
Yeah, she stands accused of being, frankly, a calculating, horrible person. That's what people think about her. She's desperately trying to project a different image. And the reason she's doing that now is she's got a TV show coming out, and she's got a lot of bad publicity to try to blot out between now and March the 4th. And as I say, a few passionate smackers on Harry's lips in Canada, that isn't going to cut it. We're going to break now, Kinsey, and when we come back, we'll talk about Donald Trump, Harry, and Meghan, indeed. So that next, stay tuned.
she's now been disciplined. She's gone to an employment tribunal. But astonishingly, at the tribunal yesterday, Dr. Beth Upton, the man, said that trans women have the right to get changed in front of female colleagues, insisted that he is biologically female, and said sex had no defined or agreed meaning in science. Actually said that. He said, I'm not a robot, so I'm biological, and my identity is female. Without wanting to appeal to the dictionary too much, I'm biologically female.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with the great Kinsey Schofield, who's in the studio all the way from America, and we're talking about our favourite subjects, Harry and Meghan. But Donald Trump this week, we cover these stories relentlessly, and we've talked a lot about Harry's possible visa problems. Well, now he doesn't really have them. We may still get to see what was on his visa, because the Heritage Foundation's legal case to make his visa application to live in America is still going on, and the court may well rule that in the interests of American transparency, a country where people are honest and where the people are not kept in the dark, unlike in Britain, that they may get to see what he wrote on his visa application. But if he lied, that's a federal offence. But Donald Trump, hilariously, just said, I ain't going to bother him. He's got enough problems with his wife. She's terrible. That's what he said. She's terrible. Now, it is being perceived, Kinsey, that to get back at Trump, that little pipsqueak Harry, when he made his speech opening the Invictus Games. By the way, the Invictus Games are great. We're not having a go at that. So when he made his speech, he talked about, he lambasted the problem with so much weak moral character in the world. And he's having a go at Trump there. That's the President of the United States of America. That's the most powerful, the most important human being on the face of the planet. Who does this little ginger dork think he is?
Yeah, somebody who's clearly very busy. Look at all he's done in his first month as president. So this is somebody that means business. I don't know why he would challenge this individual, except perhaps he does know that Trump has a soft spot for the royal family in his heart. And if you hurt King Charles, or if you hurt Prince Harry, you hurt King Charles. And I think that Trump is aware of that and doesn't want to do that. But you and I, we talk about how great the Invictus Games are. I mean, it's an incredible organization, but when we talk about that, it's because we're assuming the objective is to uplift these wounded warriors and these veterans that are challenging their bodies and challenging their minds and representing their countries in competition. We're not thinking that it's Prince Harry using this platform that the royal family built for him to take swipes at world leaders on the stage. We don't admire that version of the Invictus Games. We admire the version of Invictus Games that is about the competitors. If Harry and Meghan continue to use the Invictus Games as a platform to market themselves, promote their commercial ventures, and to take swipes at world leaders that they disagree with, it will negatively affect this incredible organization. And you're right, like, Prince Harry, who do you think you are? We've seen you in a Nazi costume. I'm sorry, but we're just not going to take you seriously when it comes to discussing moral character. But don't take advantage of the incredible position that your family gave you with the Invictus Games by starting additional drama. Just let it go. Be the bigger person.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Yeah, I just think, who the hell does he think he is? I mean, what does he know? What does he know about? I mean, this is a guy who's sort of written more books than he's read. Tom Quinn's new book reveals that when he was still over here, this is a book about the secret life of royal servants. When Harry was still here, the royal servants used to joke that without servants it would take him 2 weeks to put his trousers on, his pants on.
Yes.
But apparently it's really improved now. It only takes him a week. So he's going up in the world.
Thanks to Doria. Maybe Doria helps him put his pants on.
It's just a wind your neck in. Who the hell do you think you are? It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Well, I almost mentioned the Tom Quinn book earlier when we were talking about Meghan desperate to change her public perception. Tom Quinn's book says Meghan thought she was marrying a billionaire and was disappointed, and it was like cartoon heart eyes over the idea of castles and that very unrealistic
that American view
that Disney
of the way Disney sort of version of the royal family.
Yes, and I think that reality hit her pretty hard. And the reason we see such desperation from her is because I do believe she thought Prince Harry was worth more than he is financially, and she realizes he's not as ambitious as she is. So a lot does rely on her being ambitious and selling Prince Harry's family's name, which is incredibly vulgar considering the fact that they have spent such a significant amount of time tearing that family apart.
Listen, I'll tell you, absolutely. I think, getting involved with the royal family, her big dream was a source of great disillusion for her, because they don't ride horses and joust and whatever.
Meghan needed more balls in her life. She wanted more gowns and tiaras.
Exactly. That's what she thought. She thought she'd spend her whole time wearing a crown or something. There's a couple of notes I've got here. This is from Barbara. She's making a very good point. She said, I thought you lived in the USA for 10 years. If so, well, I did. But she's making, you'd know that Mal is pronounced Maul. Yeah, but
I just thought you were trying to impress me.
Yeah, but Barbara, I don't have to use the American pronunciation. And Galeria, is it Galeria or Galleria? Galleria.
Galleria.
Yeah, well, I don't have to know how to pronounce a Texas Dallas shopping mall. But fair point, Barbara. I still say hood, still say trunk. Even say faucet sometimes, so it takes a long time to get over it. Barbara lived there 33 years, so she'll know what I'm talking about.
You did once slap my hand when I said Derby. You were like, it's the Derby.
Derby.
It's the Derby.
Derby. And this is from Ernie. Hi Kev, was Meghan kissing Harry or sucking the last bit of life out of him? I think the latter. Tell you what, stay where you are, Kins, if you don't mind. We're going to go to break because we've got Michelle in London. Stay where you are and we'll have a chat about the royals. She's phoned in about that. So we'll do that after these messages. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, not only is Kinsey in the studio, Kinsey Schofield, but I think I've got her a husband. This is from Winston Smith, who many of you may remember was in George Orwell's book 1984. This is presumably a real, not fictional Winston Smith. So Winston has written this. Kinsey is fabulous. Can you please ask her if she'll marry me? My wife won't be happy about it, but I'll sort something.
Well, I need to see your credit score, but I'd love to live here, so the options are looking pretty good.
Well, Winston, so it's a possibility. Don't rule it out, OK? Right, she's been waiting patiently. Now, let's have a chat about the Royals with Michelle in London. Hi, Michelle.
Evening.
And talk to
Kinsey. It's so lovely you come over.
Oh, good to hear your voice.
I think you're amazing, and I love your laugh.
Oh, thank you so much.
You and Kevin, you're like a comical thing. I love it. Listen,
Comedy duo.
I've been listening about Meghan Markle and all this, right? And I've watched it.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of a scene from Fools and Horses when the Peckham water, spring water, was available.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I remember that one.
And I just think fake. I mean, I would have liked to have seen another path in her life when she didn't meet Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just to make sure, hold on, Michelle, because Only Fools and Horses. It's one of our most legendary classic sitcoms. And one episode, it was all about kind of spivs, wide boys, and they're trying to sell some Peckham mineral water. And as Michelle's suggesting, it was all fake.
Yeah.
And that, Michelle, I think you're saying is the problem with Meghan. She just seems to be so fake, doesn't she?
It's just unbelievable. You've been handed the world at your feet, and you've still got to stick up your bottom. It's amazing.
Maybe that's the problem. We just haven't noticed that stick.
Yeah. Michelle, were you...
I saw that ages ago. And I mean, I never liked her from the start because I just thought, as a woman can tell another woman... That's interesting. This wasn't love. This was like, what's next?
Did you stay there, Michelle? Did you notice that, Kinsey? About did you think that when you first saw her with Harry and that, did you think she was scheming?
I thought she was so sweet until the first.
Until you realised she was acting.
Yeah, until I realised she was. My first red flag was that no one was at her wedding to support her. How do you only have your mother there to support you at your wedding that the entire world is watching? They asked George Clooney, how do you know the bride? I don't. Why were we all not like, this is...
Did he say that?
Yes, he said, I don't. Michelle, that's so interesting to me that that you caught that so soon.
You sort of spotted it, Michelle, yeah?
Oh, get not her, but get Kirsty to watch Fools and Horses, the Spring Water episode. She is going to laugh.
I will. No, we will get to watch. That'd be quite funny to see her watching Only Fools and Horses. Well, Michelle, so do you think the marriage will last?
Do you know what? I'm surprised it lasted this long, but it's always on her terms. Do you know what it is, Kevin? And Kirsty could probably say, women are women. Women can read other women. This is why women don't get on. We're all about... stick up for each other. No, we don't. If you've got a better fridge freezer than what we've got, we are jealous. No, we are. We get very materialistic. And Kirsty, I'm in love with my Real Housewives. I love them all. But I'm into Salt Lake City at the moment.
Oh, what, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe how miserable people are over silly things.
Well, I'm more of a Southern Charm fan. I could talk to you about Southern Charm before I could talk to you. And by the way, all the Bravo people are obsessed with the Royals too. All of these reality stars, and they do not like Meghan Markle. And this is who Meghan Markle's trying to be. She's trying to, you know, she has her own reality show on Netflix. And these are the people that she used to aspire to be like when she was auditioning for Shakira music videos in Hollywood.
Exactly. Hey, Michelle, listen, I've got to go now because the time presses on, but it's really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for calling, and well spotted about Meghan at an early stage. Michelle in London. Excellent. Listen, Kinsey, how great to see you. Thank you for coming in. You're going to come and see us on Thursday?
I will try.
What do you mean you try? I'm booking you.
I have a date with Windsor Castle for Valentine's Day, so we'll see.
I'll try.
Well, I'm staying.
You're going out with a castle?
I'm going to stay there so that I can say I'm as close to Prince William as possible on Valentine's Day.
Have you got an iPhone? We could do it on the phone.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's do that. Let's do that. That'd be quite good.
Yeah, I'll have Windsor Castle right behind me.
She's still in the West. She's in Windsor. Great to see you in the studio. I'll see you tomorrow for a bit of lunch, and well, Kinsey Schofield.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll be. We're going to talk to Jake Wallace Simons, former editor of the Jewish Chronicle, about what the hell is going on in Gaza, because that situation does not look good. Donald Trump demanding that that ceasefire gets back on track and the deal with Hamas gets back on track. Hamas being accused of reneging on releasing the hostages, and Donald Trump saying, well, if it's not all done as promised by Saturday, as far as he's concerned, all hell may break loose. So it's not looking good out there, and Jake Wallace Simons is the man to talk to. We will do that right after these messages. Stay exactly where you are.
I think Hamas are playing a very dangerous game because if they don't hold to the ceasefire terms, they're going to find air attacks coming in again and disrupting the rehabilitation of Gaza.
Well, this is just breaking news now, actually, right on time for you. Israel has just called the decision a complete violation of the ceasefire deal, which began last month, of course. Defence Minister Israel Katz says, I've instructed the IDF to prepare at the highest level of alert for any possible scenario inside Gaza.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's talk about what's going on in Gaza now, because the ceasefire seems to be in a very fragile state, to say the least. Hamas now saying that they may not continue, or they don't intend to continue, the agreed release of the hostages who are still held in those hellhole tunnels, because they say Israel has reneged on its side of the deal and is shelling areas of Gaza again. I don't know the truth of that. That's what they're saying. Meanwhile, the president, Donald Trump, has stepped in to say that as far as he's concerned, there was a deal on the table and that all the hostages should be released by this coming Saturday. And he says if they're not released by Saturday, he's put a time slot of midday on it. He said if they're not out by midday on Saturday, he said as far as he's concerned, all hell can break loose. We're going to talk to Jake Wallace Simons. He's columnist at The Telegraph, former editor of the Jewish Chronicle, in just a second. But I think first, to set the scene, let's have a listen to Donald Trump laying it down the line.
I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think a lot of them are dead. I think a lot of the hostages are dead. I think it's a great human tragedy what's happened, how people can be that mean to do.
Welcome to the show, Jake Wallace Simons. Thanks for joining us, Jake.
Thanks for having me. Hello, this evening. Good evening.
What's your take on what's happening there? I mean, one of the aspects of all this I'd like to focus on was the harrowing condition of some of the more recent releasees. I mean, guys, photographs of them when they went in, you know, one guy married, found out, by the way, that his wife and kids had been killed. Only found that out when he was released this last weekend. But what struck me was a picture of him before he went in. Quite a well-built, generously proportioned chap. I mean, he looked like something out of a concentration camp coming out. Absolute cadaver. So some of the conditions of these hostages has been harrowing, to say the least, which I think must have made the tension even worse between Hamas and Israel. And now Hamas are saying, well, Israel is reneging on its side of the deal. We just heard what the President of America is saying. What do you think is going to happen? Where are we at right now, would you estimate, Jake?
Well, I think you put your finger on it in citing the atrocious condition of those 3 hostages who were released the other day. Eli Sharabi, the man that you mentioned, the poor man who discovered when he was released that his wife and child were killed on October the 7th, the people he'd been longing to see for all of his time in captivity. Hamas made a show of interviewing him on the stage in one of those grotesque handover ceremonies that they've been staging, where they asked him what he was looking forward to. He said seeing his wife and child again, and they all laughed at him. They were mocking him. I mean, the cruelty really knows no bounds, and I think that it could very well be that Hamas has overplayed its hand in releasing hostages looking like cadavers, as you've said. So far, Hamas has been keeping a very tight grip on the propaganda message that's been coming out, releasing hostages that are forced to wave and look happy, giving them goodie bags and certificates. The Red Cross shamefully playing along with this spectacle, signing those books in a kind of faux legitimate handover parade, which is against the Geneva Convention, of course. But I think this time it really overstepped the mark in releasing people who shocked the world. You know, comparisons were drawn with the concentration camp survivors in 1945. I think Hamas realized it had lost some of the public sympathy. It had allowed its mask to slip a little bit. You know, these guys, I mean, they'd had to learn how to walk again before they were released. That's how poor condition they were in. They were burnt, they were hung upside down, they were almost suffocated, they obviously starved. And Hamas realised it had lost the sympathy that it had enjoyed. And we saw, strangely enough, some propaganda appearing on the other side, from Hamas's side, with pictures of cancer survivors claiming that they were released from Israeli prisons, trying to make out as if Israel treats prisoners the same way. Of course, it doesn't. And that really has provoked, I think, Donald Trump to make that statement, saying that 12 o'clock, high noon, Saturday, that's the deadline. We want all the hostages out before then. His remarks were echoed this evening by Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel. He said high noon as well, but interestingly, he didn't actually specify that every single one of the 70-odd hostages needed to be released. He just said our hostages, allowing some room for further negotiation and manoeuvre. I mean, Israel is really gripped in anguish at the moment. It has been obviously since October the 7th, but it just gets worse and worse. Just when you think it couldn't get worse, it does. On the one hand, they desperately want their people to get out, of course, looking at the condition that they're being kept in. On the other hand, they cannot abide Hamas being allowed some form of victory and to retain control of the Strip after the war. And so these are the two competing priorities that we're looking at now, but it's looking likely that the deal is going to collapse and the war will likely resume.
And are you putting any credence by Hamas's claim that Israel has broken their side of the bargain by resuming shelling? Is there any evidence that they've actually done that?
No, I mean, Hamas has been, I mean, you know, you can't trust Hamas, just like you wouldn't trust...
No, I realise that.
Just like you wouldn't trust the Islamic State or Putin, you can't trust Hamas. It's amazing that that needs to be said, not in your case, Kevin, but to the wider viewership. You'd be surprised how many people believe Hamas and believe their figures and so on and so forth. But of course, they can't be believed. You know, Israel has been sending in 600 trucks of aid into the Strip, all of which has been used by Hamas to run like a supermarket, to make money for the group, to keep their control of the Strip. Israel's got to be the only country in the history of the world that's fighting the enemy and also feeding it. So, you know, I think it's much more likely that Hamas has realised that releasing more hostages, understanding the condition that they're in, is only going to appall the world more and more and turn the world against them. Now, to you and I, Kevin, the world should have been turned against them from October the 7th or decades before. There shouldn't have been any sympathy at all from the beginning. But Hamas has been able to very cleverly play the sympathy card by placing its civilians in harm's way, getting as many killed as possible, despite the best efforts of the IDF not to do so, and then broadcasting footage with the complicity of the Western media into millions of homes around the world, making people think that actually Israel's the bad guy here. But now I think it's lost control of the narrative, and its response seems to be, look, we can't risk letting any more hostages free if we're going to influence public opinion against us in this way. We're going to have to delay the deal. I mean, let's not forget Hamas's entire military strategy is built around the idea of sacrificing lives, civilian lives, their own combatants, Israeli lives, for the sake of propaganda, of the public image, of trying to turn the world against Israel. That's their whole basis. That's the goal they're going for, because they believe that if they turn the world against Israel, the war will be pressured to come to an end, and Israel eventually will be vulnerable to a further October the 7th. So that's the whole strategy. They sacrifice their own people for the sake of clicks and propaganda.
Now, in terms of Donald Trump's intervention, as it were, and, you know, I do think we can take it as read that Trump and Netanyahu are working together here. Hamas, I'm not quite sure, have got the memo about Donald Trump. You know, they are not operating here in the world of empty threats. I mean, Donald Trump is proving to be a man of his word, and if he says all hell may break loose if they don't stick to their their side of the deal, it could well happen. Now, this guy, a senior spokesman for Hamas, a guy called Sami Abu Zuri, as I say, doesn't seem to have got the memo. He's saying the language, this is about Trump, the language of threats has no value and further complicates matters. You know, Trump needs to remember there is an agreement that must be respected by both parties, etc., etc., etc. In other words, I don't think they realise that there's a new sheriff in town. And when Donald Trump says all hell may break loose unless you stick to your side of the bargain by Saturday, there's a chance that it might. And this Hamas lot, I don't think are quite understanding that Trump is a very different proposition to his predecessor and indeed other world leaders.
That's right. I mean, that quote from the Hamas spokesman was interesting. It was so measured. It was much more measured than Trump's, actually, in its language. And he sounded, to quote Mrs. Thatcher, a little bit frit, didn't he, I thought?
Yes.
But at the same time, it'd be interesting to see how this plays out, because Donald Trump is dealing with an enemy, an opposition, a partner in a deal, perhaps, in some grotesque way, that doesn't actually value its own life, or the values, or doesn't value the lives of its own civilians, doesn't wish for a better quality of life, doesn't wish for any of the normal things that a normal human being making a deal would desire. It just wants victory, a jihadi victory. They're Islamist fanatics who hold some utopian goal of killing the Jews and dominating the region. These are people who don't think like you or I, or indeed like Donald Trump. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond, whether they will become pliant to Trump's threats in the same way as Mexico and Canada have been recently, giving in to his threats of tariffs, or whether they're dealing by different rules, if you like. I mean, the question of all hell breaking loose is an interesting one, because although Donald Trump has made that threat, it wouldn't be the American military that's involved, it would be the Israeli military. And the Israeli military runs, as we know, by the rules of international law, as of course does the American military. It won't want to massacre civilians needlessly. It will want to clear them out, to evacuate them, to protect them as far as possible, as it has been doing throughout the war. Maybe it will go in a little harder, but it won't just decimate the Strip and conduct the genocide that everyone's been accusing it of. It will try to do things lawfully and properly, and it'll be interesting to see whether that pays off. But I think as a final thought, it's interesting, isn't it, that all these accusations of genocide and contraventions of international law and disregard for human life and so forth, which have been thrown about over the past almost 18 months at Israel, now we're seeing what it looks like with Hamas releasing those hostages in that state. That's clearly a war crime. Clearly Hamas are motivated by genocidal intent. Clearly they don't respect any kind of Geneva Conventions. In fact, they mock it. Clearly they are just a murderous bunch of savages. And as I've said, you and I, Kevin, have known that for a long, long time. It's just astonishing and shameful that the world, international institutions, including the UN and the Red Cross, are only waking up to that fact now.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff you see still supporting Hamas on social media is quite breathtaking in its wrongness and its utter stupidity. So am I correct in assessing that your informed prediction would be that within the next couple of days there may well be a breakdown of this ceasefire and a resumption of hostilities?
It is looking that way, but the Israeli negotiators are locked in talks with representatives of Hamas in Qatar as we speak. It's a very fluid situation, and of course there are many different moving pieces on the Israeli side in terms of Israeli politics. But Bezalel Smotrich, the far-right kingmaker in Netanyahu's coalition, has vowed to bolt the government and collapse the government if the government were to sign up to a second phase of the deal. Right now we're talking about getting the remaining, I think it's 17 hostages, of whom about 9 are living, which is pretty macabre in itself, but those are the times that Israelis are living in. We're looking at getting them out. I think there are 3 scheduled for Saturday, something like that. So if Hamas does abide by the original terms of the deal and reverses its position of pulling out, we could see the deal continuing pretty much as normal. That's not impossible. That could happen. But at the moment, given that Hamas have pulled out, it does seem as if they, under Mohammed Sinwar now, Yahya Sinwar's younger brother, who the leader of Hamas, may be in for a last stand.
OK. Lastly, Jake, we haven't got too long, but I wonder what, we know about the one-state solution. That's the one actually favoured by Hamas and many Palestinians. There's the two-state solution, which a lot of Westerners seem to believe in. And now we've got Donald Trump's real estate solution. I wonder what you thought of his plans for Gaza to turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East. I've got to say I find it very compelling and quite attractive, but I can see some practical difficulties. What's your take on it?
Well, I think the big picture idea is not necessarily a bad one. It's interesting that it's provoked such outrage from Western leaders who haven't taken the time to speak to everyday Palestinians and find out what they think about it. When the deal was suggested, I rang my friend in Gaza City, who's a Palestinian, obviously, old friend from when I was on the road as a foreign correspondent, and he responded by saying, "Make Gaza great again." He loved the idea. He didn't want to stay in a hellhole to bring up his kids amid rubble, living on aid handouts for the next 20 years until they built some house which
hang on, I think he might
remain under control. That he wanted a better, and it was just fascinating to see. It was. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're sort of faltering. Only just recently. Okay. So carry on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting that from the Western point of view, when refugees come from Syria, it's refugees welcome. When they come from Gaza, it's no, you stay in your hellhole because we want to feel good about ourselves and our two-state solution, regardless of what you want for yourself and your kids. So I do think that there's a lot of hypocrisy going on there. The two-state solution. The extraordinary thing is that we're still being encouraged by the left to believe in it, even though it's patently failed for the last 40-odd years and led only to bloodshed again and again. The Palestinians have rejected the two-state solution on a number of occasions.
They have, yeah.
In 2000 at Camp David and again in 2008, the Ehud Olmert offer, they rejected 100% of their demands that were offered to them. Well, they don't want it. They want a state instead of Israel, not alongside Israel.
Indeed, I mean, from the river to the sea is a one-state solution, not a two-state solution. Jake, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Jake Wallace Simons there, columnist for The Telegraph, former Jewish Chronicle editor with the latest from Gaza. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to be taking your calls in about 20 minutes. You can have the floor for the rest of the show. 0344 499 1000. You know the issues we're talking about. I want to talk about the Drax power station, the epicentre of Ed Miliband's net zero madness. It's absolutely crazy what happens there. It is about as ecological as, you know, a sort of dumper truck running on oil, spewing out smoke left, right and centre. It's just not ecological. It's a disaster. And yet Ed Miliband tries to pretend it's ecological, it's green. It's not. 03444991000. What do you think about the fact that Ed Miliband, the net zero Secretary, promised us that his green policies, his green zealotry, his fanaticism would result in our energy bills plummeting, falling, being much, much cheaper. We're all going, oh, you know, this green stuff, didn't really care, but if it's going to save us a lot of money, bang, we're up for that. Well, energy bills have not gone down, have they? In fact, they've gone up quite a lot, and they continue to go up. So, your thoughts, please, on Ed Miliband's net zero policies and what they're costing you. 03444991000. The migrant crisis, the latest horror in the immigration tribunal courts, where the judges, obviously, there's something wrong with them. As I said earlier, are they even in long trousers yet? I mean, they're just like moronic kids. Anyway, the latest excuse that has delayed the deportation of a Caribbean woman to her native Grenada. Still don't know why. Somebody let me know how you do pronounce that. Let's call it Grenada for now. To her native Grenada. She can't go back. She's been delayed because she told the tribunal her husband doesn't like Caribbean food, and in any case, it's too hot for him there. So she remains here. Another paedophile, Pakistani paedophile, has been allowed to stay. He's just done his sentence. Doesn't have to go back to Pakistan because to send him back there would be unduly harsh to his own children. To let him stay here, I would suggest, is unduly harsh to other people's children around where he lives, because he's clearly a danger to them. He rapes children, but he can stay here because of his own kids. 03444991000. Not forgetting, of course, the case we brought you yesterday of the Albanian who was allowed to stay because his son, this is a criminal, he's done 2 years in prison, found with 250 grand cash, deemed to be the proceeds of crime, probably drug dealing or something, but he couldn't account for this mountain of money. Therefore went to jail for 2 years. When he came out, you know, been to jail, should be deported. No, he could stay, because if he gets deported, his 10-year-old son doesn't like the taste of foreign chicken nuggets. So he's allowed to stay so that his son can feast on delicious British chicken nuggets. That's yesterday's decision. Day in, day out, these immigration courts produce these insulting decisions that are unsafe to the population of this country, decisions that are deranged, decisions that are moronic, decisions that actually, to my mind, seem to pitch these judges against the state. I think they see themselves as Guardian-reading vanguards of liberalism and wonderfulness, fighting against a racist state that is baselessly anti-migrant. Well, you know, I don't care whether they're migrants or not. I am against paedophiles. I don't know about you, but these judges clearly aren't. The madness of what's going on in these courts and these judges, who the hell are they? 03444991000. Now, talking of lunacy, I want to talk now about an order or new guidance that has been given to our judges. We're talking about judges in criminal cases, rape cases especially. So, new guidance to judges from the Judicial Office, which administers to such matters. The new guidance is that they should stop using defendants' preferred pronouns in rape and sex assault cases. That would bring to an end the kind of deranged situation where in British courts, in trials, rape trials, you have blokes sitting there in the dock and you've got judges, lawyers, barristers, court clerks using terms like she attacked her victim with her penis. So this has been, this kind of Alice in Wonderland gobbledygook has been denounced by the Judicial Office as extremely inappropriate, and of course it is. How did we ever get to this? The newspapers are just as bad. The media. I mean, they're sort of ordered to do it as well. We've got to stop doing this, haven't we? Let's talk to, she's a strong women's rights campaigner, free speech campaigner as well, but also a barrister. So just the guest for this slot, Sarah Fillimore. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I mean, my sort of point on this is how did we ever get to this? That judges, judges and barristers like yourself have to be advised or given guidance to stop calling blokes, accused rapists, women. Stop treating them like women. How do we ever get to this situation?
I don't know. That is the utter mystery. Because what I think it's really important for people to remember is that men don't have to do anything to their bodies to say that they're women. They can wake up one morning with a beard, penis and testicles and say, I'm a woman. And we had a situation where something called the Equal Treatment Bench Book, which was a book setting out how judges should treat vulnerable witnesses, made it very clear that if a woman referred to her male attacker as he, she was the one who was going to be in trouble. And there were quite a few horrible cases. Maria McLachlan was assaulted, knocked to the ground by a very large bloke called Tara. She was criticised by the judge for refusing to call Tara she. You've got the Karen White trial, where Karen White was put in prison after being convicted of rape. A man went on to sexually assault other inmates, and they had to go through the trial talking about her penis poking over the top of her jogging bottoms. So I'm so pleased at this directive. It's finally setting the course back correctly. It just is not right to expect women who've been attacked sexually by somebody who looks exactly like a man, because he is a man, to expect them to call that man she, because that man says, I am a woman or I have a female gender identity. It's just wrong. And while I'm glad that it's been corrected, your question remains, how on earth did we get here? A mature, secular democracy. Every single public institution has been captured by this. You're quite right to point out the journalists. It's just as bad, isn't it? We're still seeing reports of male rapists described as she. Well, it's got to stop.
Yeah, well, I remember Karen White. Karen White's a bloke. I can't even remember his real name. Stuck on a wig and says, I identify as a woman. So was tried as a rapist, being referred to as she, and, she attacked her victim with her penis. I mean, this is just insanity, and yet that's how that trial unfolded. Anyway, Karen managed to get himself into a women's prison, whereupon, he sexually assaulted, I think, one other inmate and a female prison warden in a women's prison. And, I remember papers like the Daily Mail, quite rightly, up in arms about this absolute outrage. But, I've got some sympathy for the editors, because down the line, they've agreed with press regulators, that they'll be kind to men who identify as women. So they're kind of hamstrung by the agreement they made. They should have, in my view, thought a bit more about it at the time. But while they're lambasting the horrific mistakes, the horrific howlers in the case of Karen White, they're having to say, it's an outrage that this woman, was allowed to, be put in a female prison. Well, it wouldn't be an outrage if it was a woman. It's a bloke. It's a bloke.
Well, things are definitely changing for the better, because that judicial directive came out directly because of the Sandy Peggy case, which I assume you've been following, because it's been getting quite a lot of attention.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in just a second, but go on.
And it's utterly horrific, this time for different reasons, because you've got a doctor doctor now saying he doesn't believe in the terms male and female. Biological sex can't be defined, and it's all a nebulous transphobic dog whistle. Now, this is a person until 2022 looked every inch the man he is. He's now shaved off his beard, grown his hair, and is wearing a dress, but he remains male and is a qualified doctor. So you're asking, how did we get here? It really is a very alarming question, because it's not just the judiciary, it's not just the media, it's qualified doctors now denying that sex exists, and if a man says he's a woman, he's a woman. It really is frightening.
Yeah, now this is Dr. Beth Upton, who's a doctor up in Scotland. And as you say, Sandy Peggy, I believe, is a nurse who said that she didn't want Beth Upton. I don't know what Beth Upton's real name is, but Beth Upton, as you say, is a guy, is a man who has either transitioned or just identifies as a woman. But Sandy Peggy said, well, I don't want to share a changing room. I don't want this guy marching around among us. We know the syndrome. We've heard many women complain about this. Beth Upton says, well, her case, this is going through a tribunal case up in Scotland now. She says, well, you know, I am a woman and therefore I should be allowed into female changing rooms. And when challenged on this, she said, well, you're not biologically a woman. This doctor, this qualified doctor, said, yes, I am. I'm biologically a woman. Well, you know, Beth, that's exactly what you're not. I mean, it's quite frightening. You know, I think the NHS needs to talk to Beth Upton and just say, you can't keep saying this, because this is scientific.
Well, I'm afraid Dr. Upton is supported in what he is saying by the NHS. I mean, he's not. Everyone on social media is saying, oh, he should be struck off. But why? The GMC support what he's doing. The NHS support what he's doing. This is the problem. Every single public and lots of private institutions have been utterly captured by this. If I was seeing a doctor who didn't know what sex was, I would be very frightened indeed for my safety. This has got to stop. So I'm really, really pleased to see that the judge made that decision in the Sandy Peggy case, that she and her legal team could refer to Dr. Beth Upton as a man. And that caused a huge stir. But that's led directly to this judicial guidance.
But why, Sarah? He is a man. This is insane.
Because for years we've all been marinated in this absolute nonsense that suddenly, after millennia, sex no longer exists. And I always say to these men, well, have a look at Afghanistan, have a look at Iran. There is no doubt in those countries who the women are. They're the ones being oppressed and beaten. It is outrageous nonsense to suddenly claim that it's all so fuzzy and unknowable and undefinable. It is not. But Dr. Upton is only doing what he was allowed to do by the hospital. So this is the real fear. If Sandy Peggy doesn't succeed in this tribunal, I hope to goodness she appeals, because this is really, we're at a fork in the road now. If this nonsense is allowed to continue, then I really, really do worry it's going to trickle into so many other things. I mean, I'm disabled, and even now people are talking about people who identify as autistic. Even disability is becoming an identity that you can choose. And this really frightens me.
It really does. And you said about the judges at least being given a common sense diktat to stop referring to accused rapists as she and her, their preferred pronouns, which is a good step forward. But what I would suggest is a bad step backwards. Hopefully Sandy Peggy wins this case, but if she loses it, that's a bad step backwards. But here is what is probably a more egregious step backwards, is the new health minister, the second most important politician when it comes to the NHS in this country, someone called Ashley Dalton, Labour MP. She believes wholeheartedly that trans women are women. And she's wrong, isn't she? I mean, this is a woman who, you know, next to West Streeting, is essentially running the NHS, and she believes in something that is not scientifically true.
I don't know why it's all got so difficult. I've no doubt there are lots of people who are very unhappy with their bodies. I've no doubt there are men who feel a lot happier wearing a dress and being called a female name. Now, that can be called a gender identity, and that can be protected. I don't think those men should be sacked or harassed in the street for that. But gender identity is not sex. And there are certain circumstances, like female changing rooms, where men cannot go into them, regardless of their gender identity. But everyone's tied themselves up in knots now. And because Dr. Upton wants to be affirmed as a woman, therefore he is an actual woman. Although, bizarrely, he doesn't seem to understand what male and female are. But anyway, that's just another illogicality, isn't it? I despair. What these politicians are doing is completely stupid and wrong. And I thought after the Cass review, we would have reached safe shores by now. But it seems that we're just inching forward. So I'm really glad about the Judicial Directive. But why on earth are we even here in the first place? Why have we all been wasting 10 years on this absolute nonsense? If Dr. Upton wants to wear a dress and some lippy, go for it. I call him Beth. He's not coming into single-sex female spaces because he is a man. And I really don't understand why this is all so difficult. Well, I do understand. It's because the people being hurt by this are women. And obviously women's rights are not that interesting to most men who still retain most of the positions of power. Although, of course, you give me an example of a woman, and there are a lot of turkeys voting for Christmas, I have to concede.
I'll tell you, well, some of us care about women's rights who are blokes, Sarah, so we're not all that bad. Well, some of us are. Sarah, fantastic to talk to you. Come on the show again soon. It's always a pleasure. Sarah Fillimore there, barrister, talking a lot of common sense. I think you'll agree. I mean, you know, let me know what you think about this. I mean, well, as Sarah and I were just discussing, how do we get to the point where judges and barristers, you know, learned people, have to be told, you know, that bloke, you know, who's accused of rape sitting there in the dock, stop, don't refer to him as a woman anymore. Don't use phrases like, she attacked her victim with her penis. This is what happens in courts all the time. Now, there's a new directive that should end that insanity. But meanwhile, up in Scotland, a bloke is reserving the right to pretend that he's a biological female, and he's a bloody doctor. So, as Sarah and I kind of established there, one step forward, 3 steps back. But in the end, folks, we're going to do a Trump. We will claw back. We're going to get this country back into the realm of common sense. We just need a Trump to stand up and say, right, from now on, in Britain, legally, 2 genders, male, female, which is actually accurate. That's how many genders there are. There aren't 107 genders. There are 2. Male, female. Just as there are 2 sexes. This means the same thing. The definition of gender has been hijacked by the trans lobby, by the groovy lobby. So do whatever you want, you know, neutroid or whatever, 107, rubbish. Absolute rubbish. There's 2 genders, male and female. If we could just get this country to accept that, like they're going to have to in America, like they already had to in America, this would be a better place, wouldn't it? 0344499 1000. Let's go to break now. The rest of the show is all yours. Call me, 0344499 1000, and I'll read some messages as well. Let's get going.
I think the increase in ethnic diversity among Gen Z has caused this split. I mean, you say, for example, Stonewall lobbying for the ability for gay people to go about their daily business and not be attacked, right? If you then import a large diaspora of Muslims, second and third generation, according to Henry Jackson Society polling, are more likely to be intolerant, even if they're university educated, then you've increased that level of homophobia or intolerance or illiberalism, and
yet the same group of people support both.
Exactly. So you're almost engineering your own crisis.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go read a few messages. Got a lot of love for Kinsey, by the way. This is from Kath. This is one of these self-congratulatory messages I'm going to read out, telling me I'm brilliant. If you tell me I'm brilliant, I'll always read the messages out. No, this is Kath in Cardiff. She says, brilliant interview, discussion with Jake Wallace Simons about Israel and Gaza. Kev, well done to you and Talk. Thanks, Kath, thanks. But Jake's an excellent guest. And I do think it's sort of kind of worrying, but it looks to me that ceasefire is over. And I think mainly it's because, as Jake eloquently explained, Hamas started letting these guys out. It's a lot of these, I'm not sure how many are left, 19 or something, but some of them are going to be dead. But the ones they are letting out, I mean, it's a horrible analogy, but it bears saying. They look like they're coming out of a concentration camps. I mean, cadavers. And it is the harrowing sight of these people and the obvious conclusion that they've been treated like animals down there in those tunnels that has upended this entire peace process. So it's Hamas's fault again. But they say Israel are shelling elsewhere. There's no evidence of that. But what Hamas are fed up about is that their PR exercise, look at us letting the migrants go. It's not working. People are horrified. Here's another one. This is from Sophia. What a lovely surprise to see the brilliant Kinsey live in London. I love you, Kinsey. And she's looking absolutely fabulous as well, as usual. And here's one from Gemma. Gemma says, any of you think Trump's going to help Meghan to improve her business skills? Well, no, Gemma, I don't think that at all. She won't be doing that. Let's go to the court phones right away. First of all, what time have we got? Yeah, we've got plenty of time. Let's talk to Liam in Kent, in Folkestone. Hello, Liam.
Hello again, Kev. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm bearing a bit of bad news for you all.
What was that?
Well, as you know, living down in Folkestone, I'm at the front line of it all.
Yeah, you used to give me regular reports, didn't you? See the boats coming over and things, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, well, it's been going on. It's been pretty quiet the past few days. I mean, yesterday there was only one. I mean, I'm going on official Home Office figures here. Mm-hmm. Yesterday there was only 3 picked up in one boat. Now that is my definition of a small boat. So whether that was a kayak or a canoe or something.
Well, we've got a new thing called the tiny boat crisis, have we?
There we go. Really, as of today, 24,881, which means that, only 120 needed, to actually hit 25,000. And today, Border Force Typhoon and the RNLI have been out at least 3 or 4 times. So technically, pretty confident it will hit 25,000 since Keir Starmer had been elected.
25,000 since he came in. It's pathetic, isn't it? I mean, he's not stopping the migrant crisis in any way whatsoever, droning on, prattling on about smash the people smuggling gangs. As I always say, even if you did, Keir, it wouldn't make any difference. There'd be new gangs tomorrow. What he's got to do, Liam, is stop the migrants, but he doesn't seem to have a plan for that.
No, of course not. It's guaranteed votes in the future, isn't it? But the thing is, when I was listening to you again last week, you know, with the it's estimated that it's about £40,000 per year per migrant. There's £40,000, and you know, forgive me if my maths is not so correct, but that's 40,000 times 25,000. That's £1 billion under Starmer so far.
Yeah. That's. I mean, it's extraordinary. Again, my maths, I guarantee you, Liam, is worse than yours. But if you get a boat full of 20 migrants, that's 800,000. So a boat of 25 migrants is basically £1 million worth in a year for us, for the taxpayer. So, so when you see, I think it was 2 days ago, 62 migrants came across the channel, which is quite a small number comparatively. I mean, sometimes we get 1,000 in a day, but you know, 62. What are we talking about there? That's going to be 2-3 million quid over the next year. It's going to cost you and me, taxpayers. The money just going down the drain or being charged to us, being charged to taxpayers, being charged to the nation is astronomical. It's astronomical.
Yeah, you can't. But see, the thing is, 1 billion. You just bandy. We can bandy that around. That's, you know, what is that? How much was the winter fuel allowance?
What? I think 1.4 billion. That's going to save them or something.
Exactly. And we've got a place down here called Napier Barracks. I don't know if you remember it. And they actually set fire to it at one point.
Yeah. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Well, walking past it as I do, you know, the windows open, heating on, full blast. It's a joke, man.
So they're still keeping the migrants there, yeah?
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Not to mention the amount of money that they spend on PlayStations, is it, and the rest.
Yeah. I remember the Napier barracks. Well, is it a barracks? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
a. I remember they can. Yeah, okay. So
but they can come and go as they please. Actually, I put in a freedom of information request to the Home Office, and last year, throughout the whole of 2024, 19, according to the Home Office, 19 absconded. Don't know where they've gone.
Yeah, but I mean that happens all the time. And what happens all the time, Liam? You'll know that living down that way, is they turn up in Folkestone or Dover or Deal or something. You know, we put them into a 4-star hotel and give them 45 quid a week and free food, free doctors, free lawyers, free dentists, free everything. But some of them, they basically do one night in the hotel and then disappear. So loads of them. We always talk about all the migrants that are coming across as if every single one of them is accounted for, but we never sort of factor in the many migrants who come across the channel who never get apprehended. They just break into the country.
That's it, and you only have to look at the high streets with regard to the amount of Turkish barbers, Deliveroo drivers. There's a black economy at work here.
Absolutely. Liam, well, listen, good to talk to you again. Thank you very much for the call, and keep me updated with developments down there in Old Folkestone town. Good to talk. Liam in Folkestone there at the forefront on the cutting edge of the migrant crisis. Liam used to phone me years ago and said, literally watching the boats come across. You can see them coming across, you know, one by one. So this government has done nothing. No deterrence. There's nothing out there. Just enticements, encouragements. If you come here, we'll give you 45 quid a week. We'll give you free food for the foreseeable future. We'll put you in a 4-star hotel. We'll clothe you. We will do everything for you. We'll give you free doctors. We'll give you free dentists. And we'll give you free lawyers to fight your case to stay, even though you came here illegally. That's what this government is doing to try to deter migrants. That's not a deterrent, is it? It's an encouragement, enticement. It's just insane, folks. So much going on in this country just barking mad, deranged. Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper's approach to the migrant crisis is deranged, mad, incompetent and hopeless. Hopeless. They have not smashed a single people smuggling gang. Haven't got anywhere near, although they have given the border force the Border Command, what do they call Border Security Command, £175 million worth of state-of-the-art equipment to catch all these evil people smugglers. Yeah, great. Caught any? Oh, no, you haven't, have you? 8 months, not a single people smuggler caught. So the government, in getting rid of the Rwanda scheme, which was never even tried, got rid of the only deterrent, and now look at us. It's getting worse and worse and worse. 03444991000. Let me know what you think of this ongoing catastrophe. In the meantime, we'll take a break now. Back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We'll go to the phones in just a second. Couple more messages. This is from Brian. He says, illegal immigrants, any marriage they have in this country should be null and void. Certainly, I don't think it should be a reason for them to stay. If they came here illegally, the fact that they married some Brit or somebody who's legally allowed to be here, which is what they tend to do, and stake their claim, I'm now married to someone, a British citizen, therefore I should be allowed to stay, I think we should just kick that out of the window. Good point, Brian, yeah. But, you know, I mean, some marriages obviously won't be null and void, but the practice of marrying a citizen so you can stay, having already broken our laws by coming here illegally, that should be outlawed. That should not be allowed. With you, Brian. Here's another one from Alison. This is a good one. She says, thanks to Labour, I'm now a tortoise. I have a huge cardboard box with straw, and I'm going into hibernation for the next 4 years. No bills to pay, no TV licence, no listening to Starmer and his goons. Wake me in 4 years, please, when I will no longer need a Zempic. Good night. That's from Alison. Very good point. She identifies now as a tortoise. Might as well. Well, I mean, Ashley Dalton, the new health minister, she'll be with you all the way. She'll be complimenting you on your shell, on your shiny shell and the slowness of your walk, because she believes that if you identify as an animal, you should be respected. I don't think you should be. I think you should be laughed at. You should be laughed out of the house and told to stop being so stupid. This is From Ian, he says, thanks for showing the clip of that moron not answering Lee Anderson's questions. I will be joining Reform forthwith. That's Michael Shanks, the idiot deputy net zero secretary. He's a net zero minister. He is number 2 to Ed Miliband and a complete automaton, complete cretin. And lastly, good to see Tim Montgomery, says Claire, a man of conviction who has clung onto the coattails like so many of the Tory hopefuls. Who hasn't clung onto the coattails? Yep. Absolutely. Always a pleasure to have Tim on board. He's gonna. So every Tuesday, you probably worked it out, but basically, Rod comes on at 7, Rod Liddle, and then Tim Montgomery 7:30 till 8, and that is when they're both available, of course. But it's sort of a fixture, and a very good first hour it is of a Tuesday. Right, let's go back to the phones. First of all, new caller, love new callers. Martin in Yorkshire, you want to talk about the llama lover, do you?
Yes, I do. I think Jeremy has been a little bit quick there in condemning her. I myself identified as a lamppost some time ago.
Oh, did you? Yes.
Yeah, the light went to my head, to be quite honest. I just wonder whether Jeremy's actually being a bit alarmist about the whole thing. Is that the problem, really?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure Jeremy's the only presenter who's been talking about llama woman. I mean, it's just farcical. She also believes, this woman, Ashley Dalton, who is now largely responsible for running the National Health Service. She also believes that trans women are women, but they're not, are they?
Quite possibly not, I would say.
Well, no, not quite possibly not. As a matter of scientific fact, trans women are not women; they're blokes.
That's a minor detail, though, isn't it? You know,
for the Labour people. But I mean, jokes aside, Martin, it's very disconcerting, I believe, that so many of Keir's crew, the cabinet and the Labour politicians, are still signed up to this sort of juvenile drivel about, if a bloke puts on a dress, he is a woman. Oh, if you identify as a llama, you must be respected. No, if you identify as a llama, the last thing I'm going to do is respect you. I might piss myself laughing at you, but I am not going to respect you.
Well, if there were any mental hospitals left, she ought to go there, really. Go and have some treatment and some injections.
Yeah, maybe some corrective mental processing.
And some hay or something to eat, that would help.
Martin, excellent first call. Keep in touch, don't make it your last call. Good to talk to you. Martin in Yorkshire. He's quite right, though, isn't it? I mean, it's the health minister. Trans women are not women. She believes they are. This is a scientific medical fact. She's second in command of the National Health Service. Come on, this is just deranged, as I keep saying. I said some time ago that the slogan for this programme, the political asylum, I've got to be a bit more vigilant about it because I like it. It's stop the madness. Stop the madness. And there's so much of it around. Every day in every way, you find yourself screaming, stop the madness. Oh, you can stay in the country even though you're a criminal and you went to jail. Well, if your son doesn't like foreign chicken nuggets, then of course he can stay. Stop the madness. Stop it. Honestly, stop the world. I want to get off. Let's talk to our friend Mark in Lincolnshire. Hello, Mark.
Hi there, Kev, mate. You all right?
I'm okay, yeah, just a bit furious with everything as usual. So what's up today, Mark? Yeah, Tories and Reform. Do you think they'll form a pact?
I can see it happening, yeah. I think, like last time I spoke to you, mate, I'm kind of with the UKIP thing, but I can see Reform and the Tories forming the next government. I think as the years go by over the next, these next 4 years, I think they will become closer and closer. For me, I think it's going to be a case of whether they do it just before the election, whether they formally come out with something. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I can see something after the election, because I think the only reason that Nigel Farage is kind of, oh, no, it's never going to happen, is because he wants the result of the next election. In other words, I think he would prefer if Reform have the upper hand in the amount of seats.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, yes, he wants to be the major player in any kind of potential pact, that he dictates terms to the Tories and not the other way round. But then again, Kemi Badenoch, on the off chance she's still the leader come the next election, and I think that's pretty doubtful, frankly, the way she's been performing so far.
Yeah.
But if she is, she wants to be pulling the strings. She wants to be the major player. But what I find is, infuriating in a way, but typical. The politicians, you just know what they're going to say in certain situations. And whenever you say to any politician, say for the Tories, oh, what about a pact with the Lib Dems? Absolutely out of the question. We will never, ever do a deal. The following day, they do a deal. They form a coalition government. It's part of their DNA. It's part of their creed that if you suggest some kind of alliance with another party, they go, oh, no, absolutely not. Now, what I would say about the potential Tory-Reform pact is there are so many denials of that ever happening now in the House of Lies that we call Westminster, that it's almost certain to happen. And what will happen, I think, Mark, is when we start to knock on the door of the next election in 4 long years from now, by which time I doubt if there'll be much left of the country, by the way Keir Starmer's going on. But when we get to that point, 6 months before, a year before, then you will find that all these fervent denials of ever doing a deal between Reform and the Tories, they'll begin to melt away. And fairly soon they'll be pictured together, best of friends, marvellous to be working together. This is the way they roll. They always deny potential pacts, but when it comes to pursuit of power, if a pact is required, a coalition, guess what? They do it.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, to be honest, that scenario kind of makes sense anyway, doesn't it? Because if you're doing it too early on in the day, all you're really going to do is annoy, for the Tories, they'll annoy their voters. Reform will definitely annoy their voters if they start talking about it. But again, as I say, and you know this yourself, I think, more than anything as well, Kev, after the next 4 years, Reform voters and Tory voters will be a lot more open to the idea.
Yeah, they will be, and they'll I mean, because the proposition will be. I mean, a lot of people get carried away with Reform UK right now, and I'm excited about Reform UK. They're talking interesting policies. I mean, I personally like quite a few people in that party, but a lot of people around the country, supporters of Reform UK, say, yeah, we're the next government, Nigel Farage, definitely the next Prime Minister, as if somehow or other they're going to sweep away all Tory support, that every Tory voter will switch to Reform UK and Reform UK win the next election all on their own. Well, that isn't going to happen. And without some kind of deal with the Tories, the numbers just won't be there. They might just about be able to do a coalition, but the chances are that if they're divided, if the right is divided, Keir Starmer will get in by default, and we certainly can't have that. So in the end, I think the forces of the right will do anything to stop him getting back in, and in that endeavour, I wish them all the very best. Mark, I better move on, mate, because I've got to go to break, but it's always good to talk to you. Thank you very much for the call. Mark in Lincolnshire, friend of the show. Got a break now, come back with a few more phone calls. Stay where you are.
my producer Christian asked me this morning, do you think there's somebody actually deliberately trying to screw up Keir Starmer's prime ministership by just giving him really, really bad advice? Like, let's not bother checking the background of this woman, Ashley Dalton. Let's just appoint her as a health minister to replace the health minister that wants to kill off pensioners and is anti-Semitic and racist. And let's replace him with this woman who's previously said you can identify as a llama and, of course, you can have a penis even if you're a woman.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, Joanna from Salisbury says, paedophile allowed to stay because it would be unfair to his children if we kicked him out. I beg to differ. They are better off without his influence in their lives. Better no father than a bad father. Well, often parents aren't allowed to stay with their own kids if they get convicted of paedophilia. So if they're child sex abusers, they often can't stay with their own kids. So I don't know what that is all about. But these people are paedophiles. You know, breaking our laws and going to jail is bad enough. You should be deported for that. But if it's sex and if it's sexual assault, rape, or worse than even that, paedophile rape, you know, they're allowed to stay because of their own children. European Court of Human Rights, give me a break. Come on, it's got to stop, hasn't it? Let's go back to the phones. Petrihoff's going to be in a little while to tell you what she's got lined up for you from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. But before that, let's talk to Quinn in Neath. Hello, Quinn.
Hello there. I like this to say it. Why don't we all stop paying taxes and basically just keep our money to the end of the year, hold it all back, and basically all the direct debits, so it hurts their pockets, and then obviously you might see more common sense somewhere along the line.
It's a nice idea, but we'd all get fined, wouldn't we? We'd get fined every week.
Yeah, but we can always give them something like little drips and drabs just to keep them happy, and then basically at the end of the year, then, you know, see how they...
Well, I like the idea, Quinn, but if you say to governments, I'll tell you what, the whole population isn't going to pay their tax, governments tend to get rather snippy about that, to say the least. So whilst I like the principle of what you're saying, I think in practical terms it ain't going to happen.
Oh, well, here we are.
It was a nice try, though. It's a nice try, though, Quinn. I like that. I like your thinking. So thanks very much for a good call. Good lateral thinking. Call me again. Quinn in Neath. Let's go to Graham in County Durham. Wants to talk about Donald Trump and the hostages. Hi, Graham.
Yeah, good evening, Kevin. Thanks for a great show. You and Mike Graham, absolutely bloody great.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you very much.
Just speak common sense in this
increasingly crazy world. It's getting
totally picked up. But anyway, yeah, right. Donald has said, if they don't stop prattling about, get the hostages out on Saturday, he's going to unleash hell. Right, well, yeah. Never mind what Benjamin Netanyahu is going to do. Right, Donald is a man who does what he says. It's like he does what he says on the label, you know. He's going to do it. And I'll tell you, if they don't, pissing about with 3 here and 100 of them, that's raped and savaged half of them. No, I mean, come on.
Well, the thing is, Trump, I agree with you. I mean, you take this guy seriously or you make a big mistake. So when he makes that threat, you should take it seriously.
Absolutely, Kevin.
But he'll have to work in tandem.
Well, the thing is,
he'll have to work in tandem with Netanyahu. He can't do it on his own.
I know, but I mean, come on, who negotiated that deal? 3 of them coming through and 100 of them.
Well, yeah, I know, it is bizarre. They always do this.
It was X2 parachute regiment.
Yeah, no.
Fought terrorists.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it hits.
No, I agree with you. It is bizarre the way that basically they all seem to do this deal that for every hostage that gets released, Israel releases like 50 Palestinian prisoners or sometimes even more. The ratio seems strangely disproportionate, but it always seems to be the system. I don't quite know why that is. But right now, I would say that by tomorrow or the day after, probably tomorrow, the ceasefire will be over and there will be a resumption of hostilities.
Tell you if it isn't, I tell you, he will do what he says he's going to do.
Well, yeah, but he'll have to do it. Yeah, well, he can't do it on his own. He'll have to do it with. He can't just send American troops in, and he won't do that. He just can't. So, if all hell is going to break loose on Saturday, if Hamas
from the music festival.
Right, Graham, you got to go. You can't use that kind of language. Bye. Right, let's go to Chris in Epsom.
Evening, Kevin.
Hello, Chris.
A great show tonight.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
I've got 3 things. Well, hopefully I'll meet Sarah tomorrow at the FSU annual.
Oh, right. Yeah, OK, good. Yeah, Sarah Fillimore. Excellent.
Now, I've got 3 things to say. First of all, I don't know quite how to say this, so I'm going to be very.
Start at the beginning, Chris. Try that.
yeah, all right. Right. The Americans have got a saying.
The Americans,
if you've got a beep, you ain't a chick.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah. I know what you mean.
And that sums it all up. So that makes
if you have, let's say it in acceptable English, if you have a penis, you're not a woman. You can't be a woman. Or if you ever had a penis, you can't be a woman. I agree with that. Yeah.
I'm a bit with that. I'm a bit skewed. If somebody has gone the whole hog and had the chop and all
it doesn't make him a woman.
Doesn't make him a woman, but it does make him not dangerous. Well, I think not dangerous to women.
Well, yeah, but then again, Chris, it's not really a question of danger. I mean, sometimes I guess men who identify as women who are allowed into women's changing rooms could be a danger. But usually it's just women, biological women, females, who don't want blokes, biological blokes in their safe spaces. It's just that they don't have to be dangerous.
If it was my stepdaughter in a changing room, who's 10 years old, and somebody went in there, right, and said, I'm a woman, I can be here, I can tell you I'd sort it in 30 seconds.
Well, yeah, sure, but a lot of women, a lot of biological women, just say they say, I don't care if you've had the full surgical transition. I still don't want to share same safe spaces with biological males.
Well, then I'd be on the side of the women, absolutely 100%.
Yeah, me too.
Now, the other thing is 2 things.
Well, quickly, I've got to go in a minute, Chris.
All right, you've heard the Labour government are trying to push through this legislation that allows them to access anybody on benefits bank accounts and remove money. Now, benefits is not just benefits for the unemployed; it's benefits for disabled, for child credit, for anything, for pensions, and even called pension benefits.
Well, listen, Chris, this is too long now. I'm going up to 10 o'clock, so good point. Phone me tomorrow. We'll talk about it fully. And now, Petri Hoskin's only got about 30 seconds. It wasn't my fault, Petri.
I know.
It was Chris from Epsom.
It was Chris. Don't let him speak to you again. It's 50 years ago today that Margaret Thatcher